Hey guys. Part 14 of What If Naruto Was Sealed and Woke Up After 2,000 Years. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 38. This is how you walk and talk. Location: the Normandy. Naruto walked into the conference room completely silent. Jacob was standing on one side of the table, looking down at the report he was working on. He walked over to the other side and waited. Jacob saw him quickly enough, rising his head up to him. "Commander," he said in greeting, "what are their conditions?" Naruto asked him. When they had gotten back on board the Normandy, both Geras and Musashi had been whisked away to the med bay. That had been over 8 hours ago. Musashi got off lucky. That axe wound didn't hit any of his arteries. The doctor says that he'll have a stiff shoulder for a couple days, that's it. What about Geras? He fell silent at that, but only for a moment. Dr. Chukwas has done all she can for him, but he took a bad hit. She corrected him with surgical procedures and cybernetics. Best we can tell, he'll have full functionality. But, stop, Naruto told him. Don't get my hopes too far up. That just gives them a bigger height to fall. That happened too many times already for him. Sorry, Commander, he apologized. There's no need to apologize. You haven't done anything that requires an apology. He stopped and looked across the table at him. Have you? None that I am aware of, he answered with a straight face. Sir, I wanted to say that working with you is a great opportunity to do something that matters. You waited this long to say that? Naruto couldn't help but ask him. Usually, that was something that was said after the first couple of days or something. We have been busy, sir. But it is a privilege to serve on the Normandy. Let's just hope we don't end up like the first one did. That had ended with his ship being destroyed, his crewmates being scattered, and him losing 2 years of his life. Not exactly a bright spot for him. As long as the elusive man walks his talk, and you do the same, I'll do my best to make sure we succeed. To that, he smirked. You should know better by now, Jacob. I don't walk. I run. I charge. I leap. I duck. I stalk. I hunt. I don't walk. Yes, you do, Isaba said to him. You walk all the time. Commander, you walk all the time, Jacob said. See? Anyway, that's been the condition of my service so far. So far? Repeated Naruto, looking at him pointedly. Luckily, he didn't take long to explain. I have issues with certain actions the Akatsuki has taken in the past. So do I. True, he conceded. But I have issues with the current Akatsuki, not the historical one. Now the blonde was curious. What be they done to get your tail in a knot? A lot, Jacob answered. They've been called terrorists, and with good reason. Doubt you could find a more checkered past. But if we take care of the tribe and let the entire galaxy know what they've been doing, the Akatsuki will be remembered differently. He paused for a moment in thought. Or we'll all be tried and executed. Can't count on people thinking about it as hard as I have, he added. You sure about that? I don't know. He looked up at the ceiling of the room for a moment, clearly still thinking, and then back at the blonde. Have to say, you run this ship tight and we're getting things done. We're still in the process of getting started, Naruto corrected him. We haven't gotten anything done yet. We've gotten a few things done. We've released Ruko from imprisonment, and setting off chaos in the ship while we did, cutting a severe loss to the Blue Suns. We've recruited Morden, who's probably able to help figure out how to get the rest of your chakra back. And we have Geras and his team, provided that he makes it. He'll make it. There was only firm belief in his voice, no doubt. Jacob chose not to argue with that. In any case, we keep on this kind of track and maybe we'll figure this all out. Personally, I hope so. I'm not looking forward to the debrief if it all goes to hell. Trust me, after things go to hell in succession, the debrief isn't going to be the nasty part. There had been enough times when Obito sent them into hell with his actions that when it came to debrief, Naruto would start to glaze over it. He looked at Jacob after his quick stroll down memory lane. So, were you always with the Akatsuki or did you do something a bit more respectful beforehand? I was in the Alliance military. What happened? He folded his arms together. I did some things that caught attention and stirred up the Citadel. That was after the Alliance put me on leave though. Didn't drive a Mako through a relay or take down a Reaper, he remarked, but you covered that. Technically speaking, I wasn't driving. Naruto was going to make sure everyone who brought that up knew it. But you did take down a Reaper. Everyone saw it happen. Truly one of your finest moments of showing off, Kurama declared. You're just saying that because I used your chakra to deal with Sovereign. Why yes, I do believe you're right. Ugh, don't get him start, Naruto, Matatabi told their Jinchuriki. He'll get unbearable and will be forced to live with it. What about you? Naruto asked Jacob. What was a career highlight for you? He was silent for a long second, thinking it over. Well, the job I'm proudest of wasn't for the Alliance. Nobody really knows about it. Sounded interesting. Hit me. A Batarian group was plotting to release a weaponized virus and kill the council. Miranda and I stopped it, and they kept it quiet, he finished. The Akatsuki member nodded. The real work doesn't get publicized. They say it's better that people don't know how fragile the systems are or how close the bad guys can get. So it never happened. Like you and the Reaper, he added. And that's why I'm here. I'll admit it's annoying, Naruto said. He had wanted to throttle the council when they had released the official report of what happened on the Citadel. Kami knows how people had seen Sovereign attach itself to the Citadel and shut it down. When it comes to something like that, I preferred it during the war. Why is that? Jacob asked. After Obito obliterated the Fire Daimyo's palace, there was no way of convincing the population that was everything under control. The truth was out in the open, and we didn't need to hear any kind of spin. He paused for a moment, remembering the days afterwards. When he spoke again, his voice was a lot more subdued. It didn't help us in the long run. That would be an understatement of very epic proportions, Gaki, Kurama told him. You don't have to beat it into me. I got it a long time ago, he mentally replied, just making sure. The door opened, making them turn both their heads. Naruto, Geras said as he walked in. His armor had been blackened and scarred from where the grenade had struck. The right side of his face was patched up, but there was still bright pink scarring on his mandible, right next to his mouth. Jacob couldn't help but whistle at the sight. Tough son of a bitch, he declared. Didn't think he'd be up yet. Naruto looked at Geras with a smile. Good to have you back on your feet, Geras. Nobody would give me a mirror. How bad is it? The Turian asked. Oh, that's just begging to be served up as a joke, Saiken declared. You think he's going for it? Isabu asked. We are talking about Naruto here. When hasn't he gone for it? Chome asked back. Oh yeah, good point, and they were right. Look at it this way, Geras. You'll finally be able to get a date with something that isn't a gun. All you have to play up the I got wounded in battle card. But aside from that, you're just as ugly. Ooh, good one. Shikaku praised him. Geras seemed to think so too. He chuckled for a moment before wincing in pain and then holding the injured side of his face. Don't make me laugh, he told the blonde. Damn it. My face is barely holding together as it is. A sly smile came across the uninjured side of his face. Ah, probably for the best. Everyone was ignoring you and hitting on me. Time for you to get a fair shot at it. They'd have to hit me first. Commander, if you'll excuse me? Jacob asked. Yeah, go ahead, he told the man, who saluted him before leaving the room. And there's no need to salute me, he shouted after him. Was there really a need to shout that? He's just going to keep doing it, Matatabi remarked to him. A guy can hope. Still hate all the saluting? Geras asked him. At least they've stopped calling me Lord Naruto, he replied before shuddering at the thought of the word. It made him feel old. You are old, Gaki, Kurama reminded him, and you're older than me. Ooh, he's got you there, Shikaka said with a smirk. You're the same age as me, idiot raccoon, the fox replied. As he looked at the blonde in the dark hoodie, Geras's face became serious and grim. Naruto, I'm a little concerned for you, he said to him. It got his attention. What makes you say that? I've heard bad things about the Akatsuki over the years. So have I. Sure, it might have been a different version, but it's still the same thing, he retorted. I'm not here by choice, Geras. But I am glad to have you at my back while I walk into hell. The Turian couldn't help but laugh at that. You realize that plan has me walking into hell, too. Ha, just like old times. Yeah, just like old times, without the Reapers. They both shared a laugh at that. But when they were done, Geras was serious once more. I'm fit for duty whenever you need me, Commander, he declared. I'll settle in and see what I can do about the forward batteries. Don't get too attached to them or you won't be able to find a date again. Funny, he remarked drily as he walked out of the room. It's nice to see an old face around here, Isaba said. There are too many new ones. I hear that, Koko agreed. Commander, Edei said as her sphere appeared in front of Naruto. To his credit, he hadn't full-on jumped away in surprise at the sight of her. But he did flinch a little. What's up? He asked her. Professor Morden would like to see you in the lab. He may have found something regarding the inhibitors. All right, I'll head over there now. He walked over to the door, and then through it. But then he saw someone he really didn't want to see right now waiting against the wall. "Commander," Kwan said when she saw him. "Oh look, a problem for you," Shikaku said with obvious glee. "Thank you?" "I hadn't noticed her standing there until you spoke up, Shikaku," he silently replied. "Not a problem." He was being sarcastic, moron, Kurama told him with a roll of his eyes. "What do you want?" Naruto asked the hunter curtly. She came away from the wall and stood before him. "I would to talk to you for a moment." "I don't." "Sir, I wouldn't bother you if I didn't feel the need to speak with you was urgent." He knew it too, and that irritated him. "What do you want to talk about?" he asked quanmously. "It's in regard to the previous mission." "What about it?" But even though he said those words, he had a feeling he knew what it would be about. "I'd like to ask why I wasn't a part of the team when it to go retrieve Gurus and his squad. I wanted someone to keep an eye on Morden while he worked. You were the first one I thought." "Sorry, but that's just how my mind worked at the moment," he told her with an indifferent tone. Her facial expression hardened a little but not by much. "With respect, Commander, I call bullshit on that. You didn't need me to guard Dr. Morden. He wasn't going anywhere. You just didn't want me around." "Got it in one," he told her, not even bothering to deny it. He tried to walk past her but she stood in his way. "Move," he ordered. "Yeah, somehow I don't think that's going to happen," Sun remarked. "Commander, we must talk about this," Kwan said to him. "No, you want to talk about." "I don't." "Now move." "Sir," she began. "We are not talking about this." "Maybe you should," Koko suggested. "What?" he asked mentally. "She's not going to give up on this, Naruto. You might as well give up on trying not to talk about it and get it over with." "Sir, I must insist that we talk about this. Why was I left behind when I was needed?" Kwan asked him. He didn't know why he took the Gobi's advice, but he did, and he was going to be brutal about it. "Fine, you want to know why you weren't on the team? It's because I don't trust you. You let me think you were dead on Vermeer, and then when I find out that you were alive, I also find out that you're with the Akatsuki, the very organization that had hunted me and that I had tried to destroy, and may have been with them from the start. You let your teammate die. You let Kaden die when you could have saved him. That is why you weren't on the team, and if I had my way, you wouldn't even be on the ship." This time, he shoved his way past her and walked towards the lab. He stuffed his anger away as he walked through the door. That was for Kwan and no one else, not unless they earned it. "Commander," Kwan said once more. There was no emotion in her voice, and that meant he didn't know what she was feeling. He also didn't want to stop in his tracks, but he still did. "Why are you stopping?" Isaba asked him. "I really wish I knew." "What are you doing, Gaki?" Kurama asked him, giving her what she wants. He turned his head ever so slightly to the side so he could see her. "What? How can I get your trust back? You want the truth? I really doubt that you can. You betrayed me, Kwan. He kept on walking, leaving the hunter alone in the hall. Morden was at the lab table, staring at a screen with hard intent. When he heard the door open, he barely flicked his eyes upwards to look. "Commander, how can I help?" he asked. "You tell me, Morden. You're the one who wanted to see me." "Yes." "Found something interesting." "Ooh, something interesting," Saiken said. "Ask him what it is." "I'm getting there," Naruto replied. "You're taking too long. Hurry up. Will someone restrain him before he gets too excited?" "That's something I don't need now." "On it," Shikaka said gleefully as he turned to the slug. Hey! Hey! Watch those claws and that tail. What do you got?" Naruto asked Morden. "Found reason sister was able to break 81 of the inhibitors in you." That got his attention. Now he was focused on the Solarian. "Okay, how did it happen?" "Quite simple," he began. "Since sister is clone, she is you. Therefore, her biotics are yours. But I don't have biotics. I'm a chakra user." "Yes. Ruko is you as biotic user." He was starting to think that being excited for whatever Morden had for him was probably something he should get excited for. "We already established that, Morden. Is there an actual point to this?" Getting there, wanted to start simple. He bent down to the screen and typed in something fast. From the screen, an enlarged image came out of it and hovered over the table. It was an image of a human body, minus any kind of hair. A couple of taps on a keyboard from Morden and a series of lights began to shine on the body. "This is you." "Obviously," the blonde replied. "Don't get snarky," Kurama told him. "What are you, my mother?" "No, but I knew her." "Lights on body represent Tenketsu and also inhibitors." "Okay, I'm following." It was helping that the Solarian was doing the point-by-point idea now. He taped another button and a number of the lights faded away. As stated, 81 inhibitors are now broken due to biotics. Yeah, by Ruko's punch. We've already gone over this already. Yes. Punched by own biotics, and you've lost me again. To his surprise, Morden didn't look annoyed or exasperated with him. In fact, he looked happy. Simple. Inhibitors designed to initially react against biotics belonging to you. Since Tribe did not know of Sister, most likely thought that this was best safeguard to preventing use of chakra. And since Ruko is me with biotics, she's able to break the inhibitors, he finished, finally understanding what he was saying. Yes. Hypnosis is that if number of inhibitors broken is due to level of biotic power used. If she used more when punching you, most likely more inhibitors would have been broken. He smiled at that bit of good news. Well, now we know how to proceed from here. Hold on, Gaki, Kurama told him. Think about what he said. I know it'll hurt, but do try. Real funny, furball, he retorted. But he did think about what Morden had said and soon realized what the fox was talking about. What did you mean by initially, he asked Morden. When looking through scan of body and inhibitors, discovered critical factor, he began. Inhibitors have ability to react and adapt. Not a good thing. What does that mean for me? Having Sister punch you again will not work again. Inhibitors have recognized biotic signature and adapted themselves to stop it. Very problematic. That would be a fucking understatement, Shikaku declared. Would you get off me already? Saiken asked him. You're crushing me under all that weight. Do you have any way to fix that problem? Naruto asked Morden. He shook his head. No, not unless you want operation. That's liable to get me killed. Aware. Not really planning on following through with idea. Too risky anyway. Are there any other ways that can be used to get rid of the inhibitors? Still figuring that out. But will warn you. Any use that might be discovered will be used once only. Inhibitors will react and adapt. Would have to make each method count, I understand. Those inhibitors were becoming a real pain in his ass to get out. But what was he going to do about it now? It wasn't like he could burn them out with excessive use of his chakra. Wait, don't you even fucking think about it, Kurama told him instantly. Not only is it stupid, it's suicidal. You could very well kill us as well as yourself trying to do that. Hey, it was just a thought. Don't bring it up ever again. Hey, Morden, he said to the doctor across the table as the hologram body disappeared. What would you think of me trying to use my chakra to burning out the inhibitors? Trying to power through the pain to get them out. What did I just say? When does he ever really listen to you? Gyuki asked him. Morden looked at him and thought it over. Interesting thought. Might be a good idea. But risky, very risky. Could very well be killed by pain while trying to use method. Not recommended. Use only for last resort, if have to. Thank you, Kami, the QB said with a great tone of gratefulness. For once, you were listening. Duly noted, Morden, Naruto said to the scientist. He decided to move to a different topic. So, how are you settling in here? Quite well. Thank you. He looked around for a quick moment. Impressive laboratory setup. Missed working for operations with a budget. AI in particular very helpful. Best setup I've ever seen since work with Special Task Group. Yeah, when the Akatsuki deliver, they deliver. By the way, have you gotten word back from your assistant? Yes. He's quite well. Safe and sound. Neighborhood mostly quiet with plague gone. Left him the security mechs, just in case. Can't be too careful. Also tired of mechs. Noisy. Never used them in STG. What exactly did you do with those guys anyway? Naruto was curious to know. Some kind of research? He asked. Not simply research. Several recon missions. Covert, high-risk. Served under young captain named Kirahi. Studied Krogan genophage. Took water, tissue samples from Krogan colonies. Hey, I worked with a Solarian on Vermeer named Kirahi. Same guy? He asked. You're beginning to sound like him, Sun told him. Most likely. Heard he was able to take down Saren's cloning facility. With help, Morden said, looking right at Naruto as he spoke in that fast way of his. Good captain. Dedicated. Bit of a cloaca though. Loved his speeches. Hold the line. Personally preferred to get job done and go home. Probably military bravado. Jargon, chest pounding, no offense. None taken, Naruto replied. And besides, it's hard to come up with a good one-liner. I'm just glad the Shinobi Corps already had one when I joined. Oh? Never heard of Shinobi one-liner. Interested in hearing it. It's simple. Time to play the game. Simplistic yet also mysterious. Also touches of melodramatic. Must ask though, what is game? No one really explained it to me. But it's mostly self-explanatory. It's basically every mission we take on in service to our village and our land, going up against other shinobi who are trying to stop us from succeeding and vice versa. That kind of thing, he explained. It helped us get in the right mindset. Ah, you're right. Makes much more sense now. His mood became pensive as he thought about a past memory. Once had an encounter with ANBU shinobi during service with STG. How are you still alive? His lips crinkled upwards and Naruto could see humor in his eyes. He thought that what he had just said was supposed to be funny. It wasn't. Posture the same, no change in voice volume and tone. You are not joking. No, I'm not. ANBU are ANBU for a very good reason. Perhaps clarification in order. Did not meet any ANBU agents but did notice that they were there. That didn't make any sense. Could you start at the top, please? Getting there. During conflict between Systems Alliance and Batarian hegemony, STG groups were sent in to scour for information about ANBU and Chakra. Operation turned out to be failure. Never found any trace of ANBU. Finally called off when groups found notes by Besides one morning. He tried keeping a smirk off his face but had trouble doing so. What did the notes say? He could probably guess what the note would say, having worked with more than a few ANBU over the years during the war. They had a warped sense of humor, and he had a feeling that it went down through the years. Very simple. Would you please stop? We're too busy to be playing around with you. He couldn't hold it, and started to snigger. Yep, that sounds like the ANBU. Don't see humor. Personally, found note to be a little insulting. STG did not play when it came to that operation. Come on, Morden. Try seeing it from the shinobi side of the view, Naruto told him once he got his sniggering under control. Which is what? Look, I read about what happened. The ANBU were tasked to find the slavers and pirates, and stop them before they could even attack, all the while trying to find the incriminating evidence that they needed and figuring out how to get through the defenses of the Batarian homeworld in order to kidnap the leaders of the hegemony. Compared to that, evading and tricking a couple of STG groups would seem like playing. When it comes to being serious, the ANBU can't afford to play. Understandable. Would be busy protecting Alliance from hegemony. Could very well see STG as hindrance and annoyance. Would want us to leave them alone. Yeah, they were even polite about it too. Polite? He repeated. The blonde nodded. They left you guys a note that used the word please. Usual protocol for convincing people to leave them alone is to kidnap them, interrogate them for all information that they have, and then leave them with a memory wiped of any dealings with them. And that was ANBU being gentle. The Solarians stared at him for a long second. On second thought, we'll stick to polite form of address. Most likely because Alliance asked them to do so. I'd be willing to bet money on that. His humor disappeared as he turned back to a slightly more serious subject. Morden, is there a reason the STG would be studying the genophage? He turned just as serious. Krogan rebellion's bloody dangerous. Nearly bad as Rachni attacks. All species evolve, adapt, mutate. If genophage weakens, need to be prepared. Prepared how exactly? Military schematics for likely Krogan population growth. Political scenarios for attack points. Genophage reduced Krogan numbers. Species aggression unchecked. Population explosion would be disastrous. STG helped check Krogan rebellions. Needed to be ready to do the same. Simple recon. Nothing to worry about. Anyone else get an uneasy feeling about his words? Shikaka asked. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Sun agreed with him. There's more to this than he's letting on. Gaki, pump him for information, Kurama told Naruto. Already on it, he replied. What can you tell me about the genophage, Morden? I've kept hearing the word thrown around but don't really know anything about it, he asked the Solarian. Bioweapon designed by Solarian science team. Deployed by Turians against Krogans to end Krogan rebellions more than 1,000 years ago. Affects every cell of Krogan body. Commonly and incorrectly considered a sterility plague. Actually adjusts viable fertility rates to compensate for high Krogan birth rate. Stabilizes to pre-industrial population growth levels. That's his justification? Chome asked. The Nanabai couldn't sound more horrified if he tried. Morden, have you ever told any Krogan that kind of thing? Naruto asked him. No. Would consider it form of suicide. I think that would be putting it lightly. Time to go, Gaki, Kurama suggested. He agreed. See you around, Morden, he said, already turning for the door. Yes. Must get back to work on chakra blockage. Truly fascinating. He was already talking to himself by the time Naruto was through the door. When he walked into Miranda's office, he found her sitting before her computers. She was busy at work, and yet raised her head to see who came in. Commander, she greeted him as he came to a stop in front of her desk. What can I do for you? I figured that we could finish up our conversation we were having en route to Gurus, he told her. You don't have any trouble with that, do you? Please say yes. Please say yes, Sun started chanting. Knock it off, his Jinchuriki told him. Not at all, Miranda said. I'm just finishing up the operations report for that. She brought her head back down to the screen and focused on what she was writing. Oh, the Yambi whined. Grow up. Seriously, why was it his tenants acted like children some days? I'm impressed, Commander, Miranda remarked, looking up at him again. So far things have gone exceptionally well. As Akatsuki operations go, this is one of the best I've been a part of. He didn't like it when she made it sound like they had rescued him just so he could be a part of the mission. Just remember who you're following, he told her. I know who exactly I'm following. I report to him regularly. I'm here, we're both here. Because he wants it that way, she replied easily. You walked right into that one, Gyuki told him. He had to agree. The Akatsuki gave you a second chance, Commander, Miranda told him. Maybe you should do the same for us. We're not the same organization that you once knew. No, they wanted to control the world. You're just glad to be in the shadows and be the boogeyman. Someone has to be. She turned back to the report she was working on. And you walked into that one too, the Hachibi told him. Okay, you can shut up now. Are you sure? Yes. You had to ask that question? Kurama asked Gyuki with faint annoyance. Blame it on spending too many years with B. I had to be sure. Naruto ignored his tenants. So tell me. What made you join the boogeyman? He asked Miranda. She paused in mid-type and looked up at him, meeting his gaze. She was looking for something in his eyes. I suppose you've earned the right to know, she said, mostly to herself than him. Thank you for trusting me, he replied. Hey, watch the sarcasm, Kurama told him. You don't need it right now, I know that. Then why are you using it? Please tell me. Shut up. Do you remember when I told you how I was genetically altered? Miranda asked him, getting his attention back. Yeah, I remember. You did a bit of bragging as you explained, he remarked as he walked over to the wall and leaned against it. It was his way of getting comfortable and establishing his presence in her area. She didn't react to it. It's not bragging if it's true, she said. But just because I was genetically modified, it wasn't my choice. A look that was a mixture of both pain and disgust briefly appeared on her face. My father created me. Of course he created you. Did you ever get the lesson about the kunai and the holster? You see, when a mom and a dad really love each other, dipshit, you really don't need to use that, okay? Kurama told him. And secondly, I don't think that she meant it in the Jiraiya sense of the word. Why can't you just say mature like the rest of us? Matatabi asked him. Get back to me after you've spent actual time with that fucker. I am never going to look at a hose the same way again because of him. Naruto was too busy staring at Miranda after having fallen into silence. You meant only he created you? He finally asked. Yes, she answered. No, Mom? She shook her head. No. My father's a very influential man, and extremely controlling, she told him. He didn't want a daughter, he wanted a dynasty. She could still see him looming over her life, always uttering those 3 damn words. She banished the image from her mind. He wasn't here. That couldn't have been good. What else could he have said about it? He never had a parent to grow up under to begin with. I ran away as soon as I was old enough and brave enough. I went to the Akatsuki because I knew they could protect me. At that sentence, he gave her a long look. You, he said. You who bragged about what she could do and how she could survive anything? You went to the Akatsuki for protection? Yes. She made it sound like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Why? My father invested a great deal in his dynasty. It wasn't a matter of just leaving. I knew he would continue to pursue his investments. So she's been on the run, Isabu remarked. Yes, that's been established already, Saiken remarked drily. The question is, what is Naruto going to do about it now? How about you don't talk about me in the third person like I'm not here? The blonde silently suggested. To Miranda, he said, so you went to the Akatsuki in spite of what had been done to you? Of course, she answered. The Akatsuki endorses anything that advances the cause of humanity, genetic modifications included. But unlike my father and his own selfish reasons, the Akatsuki and the elusive man believe in a greater good. They see the bigger picture, and I feel like I have a purpose here. He couldn't really say anything else about that, at least not at the moment. So who's your dad? A businessman, she answered shortly, but a very wealthy one. She chuckled for a moment. It's ironic. My father believed deeply in a human-positive agenda. He donated generously to the Akatsuki, before I joined them. That's how I first heard about the Akatsuki, through my father's connections. A dynasty to one, A weapon to another, he said, loud enough for her to just hear it. What was that? She asked. You heard me. You know how you sounded to me just now. You made yourself sound like a tool that's just being used, whether it's by your dad or the Akatsuki. Maybe, she conceded, albeit with a brief look of unease. I like to know where I fit in the world. It helps me find meaning in how I was created. I thought you were created to be the beginning of a dynasty. Well, yes, he sighed and shook his head. That's no way to live, Miranda. You decide who you are, no one else. That's easy for you to say. I think you're treading dangerous waters here, Isabu told Naruto. Maybe you should back off and try asking her something else. He didn't see the reason for such a thing, but he decided to entertain the idea. He chose to go back to something she had said earlier. Are you sure you don't have a mother? Miranda wasn't sure why he changed the subject but went with it all the same. Yes. Most of my genetic material is based on my father's tissue. His Y chromosome was altered with an amalgam of desired traits from various sources. A scowl came across her face as she talked about it. How arrogant can you be? I hope for your sake that's a rhetorical question. He had enough doozies for answers that should be unnatural in a regular man's life, but for him, it was about par for the course. Gaki, this isn't about you. This is about her, Kurama reminded him. I know that. The man is completely egomaniacal, Miranda told him. And another reason I had to get away from him. Can't blame you there if he's as bad as you make him out to be, he told her. The guy was beginning to make Orochimaru look like a saint in comparison. He was glad that Snake was long dead, otherwise they might have compared notes, and that was a disturbing thought. You know, I think that her dad just might take that as a compliment, Koko remarked. All in favor in killing this guy first time we meet him? Gyuki asked. He got a chorus of yes. That's a little early to be decided, Naruto told them. After what we just heard and who you compared him to, you really want to see him still kicking? I didn't say that. I would rather meet the guy before I decide to kill him. But you do agree that he needs to be killed? Meet him first, then decide to kill him. We work from that. He pushed off the wall and started for the door. Good talk, Miranda, he told her. Now you've finally told me something about you, Commander, she said. The way she said wasn't a farewell but rather silently asking him to stick around for a moment longer. He stopped and looked back at her. Yes? Is it possible to ask you about something regarding the team? He turned around. What's on your mind? I want to speak about your sister. You almost said clone, didn't you? He wasn't insulted by the insinuation. If anything, he was amused. He had a feeling about where this conversation would be going and he was probably going to enjoy it. That is not important right now. She quickly moved on to her point. Your sister needs to be reined in. She's too much of a liability to the team. She barely listens to orders given and acts on her own most of the time. With that kind of attitude, she's going to get other members of the team killed. A small smile appeared on his face when she was done talking. You do realize that you're talking about me when I was a kid, right? He had done the same things that Ruko was doing now. As you said, Commander, you were a child. Ruko is not. She needs to be controlled. The smirk vanished. Careful now, he told her, his voice turning slightly hard. If she's anything like me, she isn't going to be very fond of words like controlled. You're going to have to be careful about the words you use. It's the truth. She's not a wild card. She's a loose cannon. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Kurama asked the blonde. Oh yeah, he replied. You think that she's figured it out yet? No way. Shall we burst her bubble? Shall I take care of it? By all means, go ahead. What are you two talking about? Saiken asked. Just watch, the fox told him. You know, I think there's an actual reason you don't want Ruko on the team, Naruto said. And it's not because you think she's a loose cannon. And what would that be? She asked, arching her eyebrow. Put that eyebrow down. This situation doesn't require it. She did as she was told, but the expression was still the same. She was confident about her stance and opinion of his sister. Please, tell me what the actual reason is. She was sure that she knew there was nothing else that could be a reason. Oh, how wrong she was. You like Ruko, and I'm not talking in the friend sense. The reaction was almost instantaneous. Her confident expression vanished and was replaced by surprise and denial. Inside his head, the Biju started laughing. Oh man, that never gets old, Kurama declared. It is quite fun to watch, Chome said, his wings buzzing rapidly with his laughter. You're wrong, Miranda finally said, trying to put her expression back into that confident look. It was still a little shaken. What makes you think that? He asked her. Because I know what I feel about Ruko. It's not any kind of feeling of love. Are you sure? She frowned. How obvious did she have to be? She is reckless, impulsive, foul-mouthed, rude, and unable to take orders. She charges right into things without even considering the outcome. She is an idiot who is going to get herself killed. He listened in silence as she listed off the reasons why she didn't like his sister, and how he was wrong. When she was done, he said, "It looks like I was wrong. You don't like her. Thank you for seeing that. You really like her." She lost her confident expression again, only this time more visible. "You're wrong," she protested. He shook his head, wearing that smirk again. "Between the two of us, who was the one trained by Jiraiya? Trust me when I say that when you like Ruko, you like Ruko." He thought about it for a moment. "Maybe it's because you're both similar, and yet completely different," she scowled. "What do you mean by that? Oh come on, you haven't noticed it?" "Noticed what? Oh my, this is rare," Matatabi remarked. "Are you going to ruin her thought process about this whole thing?" Kurama asked Naruto. "What do you think?" he asked back. The fox grinned widely at that. "Alright, have a good time." He looked at Miranda. "You are very similar." "We are nothing alike," she said firmly. "Really?" he asked her with an amused look. Two women, clones at that and very powerful in biotics, running away from their creators to a life that they hadn't known before? He listed off the points. "You seem very similar to me. I'm not a clone. I am genetically modified." "What's the difference?" "Well, still talking here," he told her, holding up a finger to her. "Really, the finger?" asked the QB. "Yes, the finger. Just be glad that I didn't use the middle finger," he replied as he kept facing Miranda. "Do you have the full set of parents?" he asked her. No. She had already told him that. "Were you created from your father and only from your father?" "Yes." Again, she had already told him that. "Were you designed from birth to be something more than what is normal?" "Yes." "If you were male and not female, would you look exactly like your father?" She hadn't thought of that. Quite frankly, she didn't want to. It was too disturbing. "I would guess so." He nodded his head as he listened to each and every one of her answers. When she was done, he looked her right in the eye and said, "You're a clone." She grew angry at those words. "I am not a clone." "Do we need to go down the list again?" "That list doesn't matter. I am not a clone." She had been told that every single day of her life when she lived with her father. The list does matter. "Do you know why?" "No, I don't." Not that it mattered. She wasn't a clone. She was a genetically modified human. There was a difference. Not only does the list describe you perfectly, it describes Ruko perfectly. Even though he called her his sister, Naruto had to admit that Ruko was his biological daughter. But he still preferred to think of her as his sister. She was too old to be called a daughter, and he wasn't old enough to be a father. She started to fire off a retort, only to stop. It did describe the two of them quite both had one parent, and they were created from that parent without a mother. They were created with more power than what was normally expected in a human. They had both ran away from what they had known as home, or what could barely be qualified as home. All these things were now just slapping her in the face, but she was stubborn. "I am not a clone. I was genetically modified. Besides, there was one thing she had that completely annoying woman didn't." "Semantics," Naruto said with a wave of his hand. "Face the facts, Miranda. You two are mirror images of each other. You could have easily gone the way Ruko had and vice versa." He thought about it and actually saw Ruko in better clothing, less tattoos, and a lot less piercings, and a much calmer attitude. Just like he could see Miranda being much more foul-mouthed. Wouldn't change the fact. "And you still like her?" He left the room with her trying to come up with a response. "Always a good time with you around, Gaki," Kurama told him. "Thank you ever so much, Furball." As he walked past the cafeteria, he saw Eric sitting at the table, happily eating away with his axe leaning against it. "Ah, Commander," the blonde giant said, waving towards him. The other two crew members who shared the table saw him and quickly stood up, coming to attention. "Hey, Eric," he said in greeting as he walked over. He waved at the crew members, silently telling them to sit back down, which they did, thankfully. "Am I the only one who thinks that this guy looks like Naruto, just taller, with more hair and a very bushy beard?" Sun asked. "It's just you," his Jinchuriki told him. He and Eric didn't even look remotely alike. "I don't know. There might be something there," Gyuki said thoughtfully. He chose to ignore that. "How's the food?" he asked Eric. "Quite delicious," he declared. "In fact, I was hoping to get the recipe from the cook." "Thank you," said the cook. "Which just proves this guy isn't normal," one of the crew members commented to Naruto, pointing obviously at Eric with his eyes. "I heard that." "Hey, when your food doesn't kill us at first smell, then you can complain." "Don't go insulting the cook," Naruto told the crew member. "Our lives and stomachs are dependent on what he makes for us." That was something he learned even before the war. Then Kami Jiraiya showed him how to cook. Come on, Commander, the other crew member said. You've tasted the stuff he cooks. You were warned to stock up on instant. I can still hear you, Shin shouted. Then get better at cooking. We don't want to die from something you claim was meat. It was meat, not according to my stomach and my bladder. Hey, what did I just say about the cook? Naruto asked them rhetorically. Yes, it is quite rude, Eric agreed. He looked at the crew members with disappointment in his eyes. Somehow, he was able to make them look very large and sad. You two should be ashamed to insult the cook like you have. His food is quite good. I think you don't have any more taste buds anymore, the first crew member told him. How else can you eat that slop? It is not that I don't have my taste buds. I have them and they are all in perfect working order. It is the fact your taste buds are uneducated in fine cuisine. That is something that you might want to consider later. You're crazy. He also has an axe, Naruto remarked, watching the entree thing with amusement. The two crew members looked at the axe, at Eric, and then at him. Just pointing it out so you could know, he told them casually. We should probably get back to our stations, the second crew member said. They stood up from the table and left quickly. What? Eric asked as he watched them leave. It is not like I would kill them here. That's rude. But you would kill them anyway? Naruto asked as he sat down at the table. When he did, his chin found his palm, not at the table with food. That's just rude to the food and to the cook. He turned his head to look at Shin. Seconds! He shouted, coming right up. Shouted Shin in reply. He sounds happy, Matatabi remarked. Thank you for stating the obvious there, Captain, Sun said sarcastically. Here you go, Shin said as he came forward and placed the plate in front of Eric. Enjoy it, I will. Thank you, my friend, he said, taking his fork and began eating. The cook smiled and walked away. He's happy, said Matatabi. Again, thank you for stating the obvious there, Captain, repeated Sun. So, Eric, tell me, Naruto said. How did you get involved with Geras? What do you mean? He asked, eating without actually looking at him. How did you get involved with Geras? He repeated. It's not like you just saw him fighting one day and decided that it seemed like fun to join in on his side. The blonde giant didn't say anything. He kept his focus on his food. Right? Asked Naruto. He still didn't get an answer, which was an answer by itself. You have got to be joking. I have not said anything, Eric told him as he scooped up a big portion with his fork. It is rude to speak with your mouth full, after all. Something you didn't really know about, Kurama remarked. Shut up, Fox, Naruto told him. To Eric, he said, I'm still waiting for an answer. One moment, please. He took the food on the fork and shoved it into his mouth. He chewed for a couple of minutes before finally swallowing. As a matter of fact, what you say is true. I knew it. Yes, we were aware of that, the QB said drily. What exactly happened? I was walking through one of Omega's districts when I came upon Geras and his little team fighting it out with one of the mercenary groups, one of the smaller ones, I believe. Hold on, there was more to his team than just you and Masashi? Yes. What happened to the others? He went still for a moment, his fork stuck in the food. When he finally answered, he said, that is something you will have to speak to Geras about. Cryptic, Naruto thought. But he wasn't going to push it. Alright, continue. After watching for a minute or so, I decided that since they were outnumbered, it was only fitting that I help them even the odds. So I started to shell the mercenaries, allowing Vicarian's group to get an edge on them. Afterwards, I joined them. Just like that? Yes. He's got some balls, Saiken remarked. Of course he does. He's a guy, Shikaku said back. The slug scowled at him. Not what I meant, and you know it. Well, that's interesting. But I've got another question on my mind, Naruto said to Eric. What is it? He asked. How does an Einherjar end up on Omega? He gave the taller blonde a long look that was both questioning and suspicious. Are you one of the disgraced? That would depend on who you ask. He took another bite of the food and chewed on it. I'm asking you. I want a straight answer. He swallowed the food and looked at him. None of the humor or good nature he had before in his eyes was there. I am one of the disgraced. Then why weren't you with the blood pack? I thought that's where all the disgraced would go. To that, he snorted like he had smelled something disgusting. Those are not proper disgraced people. Damn new bloods making everything difficult for us who are just trying to make a living, he muttered to himself. New bloods? Repeated Isabu. That's what I heard, Gyuki said. So did Naruto. Care to explain? He asked. He stopped his muttering to look at him. You do not know? I thought all Einherjar that were on Omega were disgraced and a part of the blood pack. That was he had learned. Those are new blood disgraced. They're an insult to the name. What does that make you? An old blood disgraced? He frowned. I hate that title. It's a disgrace? The smaller blonde offered with a joking smirk. Ooh, nice one, Shikaka laughed. Eric gave him a long look that might have spoke volumes, if he actually knew the guy. Very droll, Commander, he finally said. But I was going to go with insult. Please do not put words in my mouth. All right, Naruto agreed, raising his hands in slight surrender. But in all seriousness, what is the difference? These new bloods have been popping up ever since the Alliance has traveled to the stars and found that we weren't alone. Us old bloods have been around. He trailed off as he stared at the smaller blonde. For much longer, he finished. What's with the look? What look? The look that you just gave me, Naruto said. The one that was equal parts sad, horror, and terrified. What's with it? The jovial giant was gone and a somber one was there instead. We've been around since a little after you were sealed away. He looked hard at Eric and then began to mentally connect the dots. A little while after he was sealed could mean a lot of things in the span of 2,000 years. But he was talking to an Einherjar on the matter of the disgraced. That little while could very well be placed in the War of Three Flags. What exactly were you disgraced for? He asked. Well, I wasn't exactly disgraced, Eric said with a small attempt at humor. Eric, don't play around here. What happened? The humor left just as quickly as it had appeared. Can't you tell? He could, but that wasn't important. I want to hear it from you. Eric sighed and his whole body moved, like a mountain rumbling. My ancestor was exiled and disgraced because he completed a mission given to him and refused to take the consequences. You mean ambushing and butchering the third generation of the Sannin? He finished. Yes. Anger started to boil in his stomach. But before it could get worse, he clamped down hard on it. What happened had happened a long time ago. He hadn't even known the third generation Sannin. That was his own fault, but it still remained the truth. There was no point in bringing it up and throwing it in Eric's face. Instead, he said, you guys have been in exile for over 2,000 years? That's a long time. We've known that. Haven't you tried to go back? The Allfather remembers everything, and what he remembers, his children remember. Huh! That didn't make any sense. A small smile crossed his lips. Midgardians have a long memory, especially with literature helping them. I see. He stood up. He had what he wanted to know. We'll talk later, Eric. But now, I'll just leave you to your food. Thank you, I would appreciate that. He watched as the smaller blonde stood up from the table and started walking towards the medical center. Musashi is still sleeping, he said, stopping him before he could reach it. Thank you for letting me know. He turned around and walked away like that had been his intent all along. You still down here, Ruko? He shouted into the bowls of the ship as he descended. Before he had come down here, he made a quick pit stop with the engineers. He listened to Gabby play around with Kenneth in regards to Ruko, and then he made himself known to give a slight warning to Kenneth if he was being serious. And he had no idea why the man paled once he was done. It was only a slight warning. As it turned out, one of them had been able to get enough shore leave to go on to Omega and find the cables that they had been looking for. Yeah, I'm here, she shouted in reply as she came into sight. She was sitting on a crate, fiddling with a wrench. What are you still doing down here? He asked as he came down the stairs. You know we've got actual beds upstairs, right? I like it down here. Plus, I'm still checking out your ship. Wouldn't mind putting her through her paces when you're not around, she said with a challenging grin on her face. That you're going to have to take up with Joker, and I'm fairly certain it's going to be a conversation you're going to lose. I could beat him easily. Her fist began to glow red, emphasizing her point. He looked at her, not her fist. It's his ship. In that regard, he could probably kick your ass. As the glow died, she smirked dangerously. You know, this ship is a powerhouse. You could go pirate, live like a king. I could help. That's not my thing, he told her. And besides, you'd still need to get it past Joker. I wish you all the luck with that. Relax, she said, the smirk vanishing from her lips. She stood up and paced. Joyriding doesn't have the thrill it used to. Besides, if I wanted it, I'd take it. Again, you'd have to take that up with Joker. She barked out a laugh. That guy would be easy. You sure about that? He asked. Yeah, I am, she replied as she finally stopped pacing and leaned against one of the metal poles. I've been around. Ran with gangs, wiped out some gangs, joined a cult. Didn't like the haircut, so I lost it, she added as an afterthought. You joined a cult? Yeah, she said shortly, not bothering to look him in the eyes. I was looking for answers. Drugs and sex and going to a better place. A bitter laugh escaped her lips at that notion. A better place, right. It was all about money. They wanted to take a colony, shake the suckers down to fund their spread. And guess who was their ace in the hole? A giant smoking toad that had a jug of sake? He couldn't but ask. Gaki, there are times when your sarcasm isn't needed, Kurama told him. Luckily for the both of us, now is one of those times, he replied. Ruko turned her head to look at him. You're fucking hilarious, she told him, matching his sarcasm. Hey, you asked? His grin faded a little. Have you ever lived for yourself, Ruko? She snorted. You're one to talk. I do read the history books. You've done nothing but live for other people. That was my choice, and this is mine. Everyone wants something. And because of that, everything is fair game. Murder, assault, kidnapping, drugs, stealing, arson. Done it all, so did I. Well, aside from the drugs, he said easily enough. Apparently, she took that as a challenge. Piracy, theft of military craft, destruction of a space station, and vandalism. That was a good one, she added. Gaki, do you know what I've just realized? Kurama asked him. That she's describing my childhood, just more violent. He asked back. To Ruko, he just smiled. Yeah, you're definitely my sister, she rolled her eyes at him. Like that hasn't already been proven. I'm just saying that I've done exactly what you've done, albeit to a lesser degree. I've cried out for attention. I've wanted people to recognize. I know how it works. That wasn't what I was doing, so why did you add vandalism to that list? That's what the Hanner call it when you crash that space station I mentioned into one of their moons and make a new crater. She started to giggle. He liked it. She seemed younger when she did that. They really like that moon. Yep, you're trying to get people to see you. I take it that the Hanner weren't pleased. Why do you think I said that they really liked that moon? She kept giggling for another few seconds before becoming serious again. She pushed off the pole and looked at him, her face a mixture of confusion and curious. No one's ever asked me about this shit. It's strange to talk about. I'm your brother, Ruko. If I can't talk to you about your life, what kind of brother would I be? An absent one for most of my life, she said shortly. Are you going to tell me that wasn't your fault now? If he did, she wouldn't be surprised. No. But I do have a question about the tattoos. What's with all of them? That was a subject she didn't have any trouble talking about. Some are for prisons I've been in. Some for kills. You know, good ones. Some are for things I've lost. Those aren't your business. They're nobody's business. And some are because, hey, why the fuck not? She gave him a challenging look. You got a problem with them? No. I've got my own. Not as much as you and not that big, but I've got my own. Really? She asked, losing the look and replacing it with a smirk. Golden Boy had tattoos? Show me. Alright, fine. He unzipped the hoodie, letting it fall to the ground. As he turned his back to her, he lifted his shirt just enough so she could see his back. His tattoos were just large enough to be seen with the normal eye. There were 2 of them, each on either side of the spine. Each of them was one line of kanji, short in length. Ruko looked closer at them. She didn't really know kanji, only a few basic ones, and none of these were basic. She was about to ask him what they meant when all of a sudden, she knew. Konoha 12 and Jinchuriki, she read them aloud, the words coming out of her mouth like it was a natural thing. She looked at him. What the fuck do those mean? Thought you read the history books, he told her as he lowered the shirt and put the hoodie back on. I can't give you all the answers, asshole. Takes one to know one, he replied. Ha! She barked. Ain't that the truth? She grinned at him, and he grinned back. They were identical. Just another way that showed who she came from. By the way, could you do something for me? Depends on what that something is. Can you get the cheerleader off my back? Ah, the plot thickens. Sun said triumphantly. You really need to stop watching the memories of those soap operas, Koko told him reproachfully. Why do you want Miranda off your back? Naruto asked his sister. He knew the reason, but he wanted to hear her side of it. Have you seen her? She's a complete bitch. Always so prim, so proper, so fucking perfect. It's enough to make me gag. And she's always getting on my case too. Telling me what to do, how to do it, what I should wear, how I need to speak, and on and on and on. Can't she just fucking leave me alone? Gah, I want to strange her by her hair some of these days. Don't do it, Gaki, Kurama told him. Can't help it, he replied. It's not going to help the situation. I know. If you know, why are you going to do it? It's funny. He did it. He sniggered loudly. It echoed in the tiny area they were in. Ruko swung her head around to him so fast it could have come right off. What the fuck is so funny about this problem? She demanded. Miranda was asking me about you earlier, he told her. She was complaining just like you are now. And that's funny? No, what's funny is what I told her, and what I'm going to tell you. He looked her right in the eyes and said, "You like Miranda?" Her reaction was much more visible to see. She actually jerked her head back like she had been struck by something heavy. "What?" she shouted at him, her voice reaching the higher octaves. "I don't like her. She is a completely annoying bitch who has the time to make my life a living hell just by being annoying, and now I'm going to tell you the same thing I told her. You really like her." "No, I don't." "Of course you do. You're practically the same. You're both strong women who knock a hell of a punch with your biotics." He wasn't going to tell her about Miranda's birth, if it could be called that. He would let them figure that out. If anything, there was a good chance you could have been like her, and she like you. "Hey, Commander," Joker said over the intercom. "Area's swordsman is back and he wants you." "What for, Joker?" he asked. "Considering who he works for, I'm assuming that Her Piety Grace wants to see you." He laughed. "Joker, tell me you didn't just say that." "I would, but I would be lying." He turned back to the stairs. "I'm on my up." "Hey, we're not done here!" Ruko shouted after him. He didn't stop. "I think we are," he replied. "I don't like that cheerleader." "You hear me? I don't like her." "You keep telling yourself that." "Oh, and by the way, Morton told me that your punch was literally a one-hit wonder for the inhibitors." That got a chorus of groans from the Biju. "Did you have to say that of all things?" Sun asked him. "If it fits, wear it," he replied. "That line was way too cheesy for this situation." "Forget cheesy, it was corny," Chome declared. "Would it be easier to just call it cheesy and corny?" Isabu suggested, hoping to stop the argument before it even began. He was partially successful as he did stop that argument, but he started another one about the difference between cheesy and corny, and if there was any difference between them at all. Naruto was too busy silently laughing at them all to be bothered to stop them. Location, Omega. The first thing that got his attention was the sound of the table being smashed through. "Repent, traitorous heathen!" He heard a human voice bellow. "I will not!" A second human voice, pained but defiant, said back. "Repent!" "No, what is going on over there?" Shikaku asked. "Should we go find out?" Saiken asked. "Hey, who's in the control of this body?" Naruto asked them. "At the moment?" replied Kurama. He froze for a moment as he processed those words. "Not funny, furball. It's a little funny." He decided to follow the sounds to their origins, moving through and around the other people on this level of Omega. As he got nearer and nearer to the sounds of fight, the people started to turn towards the sound too, facing in one direction rather than just milling around or going about their business. When he finally got to the front, he was able to see what was going on. It was a fight between two humans, that much he already knew. They were shouting as they fought, the first voice belonging to the taller, bulkier of the two, while the second belonged to the smaller yet leaner one. Their shouting pretty much revolved around two basic ideas. The first human wanted the second to repent, and the second would not do so. It went back and forth so many times that he could have counted beats by them speaking. "Repent! No! Repent! I will not!" "Okay, this is getting a little bit boring," Shikaku declared. "They're not doing this for your personal amusement, Shikaku," Naruto silently told him. He continued to watch in silence as the struggle went on. Finally, someone, a Turian, broke through the crowd and stood between the two fighters. "All right, break it up. Break it up," he told the two humans. He grabbed hold of them both and pushed them away. The first human tried to go after the second, but the Turian stopped him. "What happened?" "He's a filthy heretic who has turned from the true faith and refuses to come back. He must be put to death," the first human screeched. His voice was loud enough to make everyone in hearing range wince. "Check the lungs on that guy," Kokuo said. "They certainly are loud," Chome commented. "That's what I just said." The Turian wasn't impressed. He turned to the second human. "What happened?" he asked again, not ever changing his tone of voice. "I gave some money to Aquarian who needed it," the second human told him. His voice was calm, like this was an everyday occurrence. "He was stuck here on his pilgrimage and needed to get out. So I helped him as I was taught, refusing any gifts he wanted to give me." He pointed to the first human. "He saw me and confronted me about it. We argued and he started to fight me." "You only have yourself to blame, you heathen!" the first shouted. "Knock it off before I shoot you," the Turian warned. "Now go away." "But, go." He glared at the second human, while the first left. "You've been warned about this, traveler." "I have done nothing to start the fights," he replied. "I have only helped the others who walk the same road as I do, as my lord has instructed us." "Oh," Matatabi said in realization. Naruto, do you remember that incident with the guy on the citadel?" "Yes, I do." He could remember it quite clearly. "It ballooned into this?" Gyurki asked. "Maybe these two are just an isolated event," Matatabi suggested. She certainly was hoping that it was an isolated event. Knowing our track record, you really think that's the case? Her hope deflated. Good point. Traveler, just get out of here, the Turian told him, giving him a hard shove into the crowd. He didn't even stumble as he was shoved, taking it in stride and moving into the crowd, vanishing from sight. Everyone else, move on. The crowd dispersed and went about their business. Well, that was interesting, a voice from beside Naruto remarked. He turned to see a red-headed human in armor next to him. The voice was familiar, and the alliance symbol on the armor was crossed out. Shin, I take it? He asked. The very same, he replied. But I may have misled you during our communications. He gave Naruto an observing look. He wasn't wearing any obvious armor, only a pair of pants, shirt, and a jacket that enabled him to blend into the crowd. How so? The blonde asked him. I am Shin Uzumaki, second in command of the Ronin. He wasn't surprised by the fact he was an Uzumaki. The red hair did tip him off. Any relation to Kushina Uzumaki from Biju? He asked. She's a distant cousin. I do have her music though. It's very good. So who's the leader of the Ronin? He was curious. He was important to have been contacted by the second in command of a mercenary group. But that left the question of who was actually in charge. You, my lord, Shin told him. He froze and so did the Biju. Did he just say that? Sun asked. Yes, I think he did, Saiken replied. Naruto, investigate, Kurama ordered his Jinchuriki. Normally, he would have retorted with sarcasm. But he happened to agree on that point. I think we need to talk, he said to Shin, and not in the middle of the district. There's an alley down that way, the merc replied, pointing to his right. Will that work? Yes. They quickly walked down to the alley and then into it, out of sight from the other people in the district. Now what do you mean by I'm in charge of the Ronin? You took control of the Ronin almost 2 years ago from me in combat. Once you had beaten me, you pulled me back up to my feet and made me second in command. You told me to keep running the Ronin like normal but to obey whatever orders you gave us. You're the reason we were there at Archangel's last stand. What? I didn't contact you guys. Yes, you did, my lord. You contacted us mere days before you arrived. You instructed the men to keep an eye out for you and to have me contact you once it was confirmed. You were the one who gave me that phrase. That's impossible. He had never contacted the Ronin before reaching Omega. He didn't even know how to contact them. What the hell was going on here? Gaki, remember the video? Kurama asked him. Yeah, I do. In the video, he had been warned to not panic when he had blackouts and had no memories of what happened. Was this one of those moments? It could very well be. Shin must have seen the doubt in his eyes. He pulled out an OSD from a pocket on his armor and held it out to him. Here. You told me to give this back to you if you ever started acting like this. Thanks. He took the OSD without a second question. Odds were that he was going to need to hear what was on it. My lord, what is going on? You contacted me with exact orders one moment, and then you don't know that you're in command in the next. I wish I knew. Probably not the best thing to say right now, Kurama remarked. Yeah, right, he silently agreed. It doesn't matter, Shin. Just go about business like normal. Yes, sir. He suddenly reached out and had the other Uzumaki by the throat. And don't get any ideas just because I'm having problems with my memory. I'm still in command of the Ronin in the end. I am most aware of that, my lord. Even though his neck was being held tight, his expression didn't change. Good. You're dismissed. He released his grip and lowered his hand. Thank you, Lord Naruto. The mercenary walked out of the alley and disappeared into the crowds, leaving the blonde alone. Was that threat necessary? Isaba asked him. He was dealing with a second in command that used to be first in a mercenary group, Saiken said to the Sanbai. It kinda was. Naruto went further into the alley, making sure that no one was able to see him. Once he was certain he was alone, he took the OSD and uploaded it to his Omni tool. A video appeared almost instantly. It was him. Did he look a little less dirty than in the last video? Hey. If you've found this, that must mean you found out about the Ronin. It's best to let them be as they are now. I took command for insurance and firepower. You can trust Shin to lead them well. He may not be on good terms with the Alliance, but he is loyal. He looked off to the side, like he had seen something. Shit! I thought I had more time. He turned his attention back to the screen. I'm going to have cut this short. No, wait. But the screen already went dead. Kami, take it. That's annoying. Well, there's a good thing about it, Shikaka said. What's that? You're constant, he declared with a snigger. One of you guys want to curb stomp him? He asked the other 8 tenants in his body. Actually, I'm going to have to agree with him, Kurama said. You can be annoying. I hate you. You've said that before. You're late, were the first words Arya said to him when he walked through her door. She was standing there with folded arms. She wasn't dressed as casually as she usually was when he came here. She was still in her bodysuit and jacket. I got held up, he replied. By what? She asked him, her eyes narrowing in suspicion. Religion, he answered with a straight face. When she didn't say anything, he did. What did you want to talk about, Arya? A lot, she told him. I don't appreciate being disappeared unlike what you did. Oh yeah, you're the one who usually does the dumping. It was something that she had told him early in their relationship, if it could be called that. He had replied that it was a good thing that they weren't actually dating. What happened? Would you believe me that it was because of a top-secret alliance mission that required me to go so deep undercover the rest of the galaxy thought I was dead? He asked her. There was a hint of humor in his voice when he asked her that question, but she wasn't amused. What happened? She repeated herself. You should probably tread lightly, Matatabi told him. No kidding. The Nibby was right though. He owed Arya an explanation of at least what he knew about what happened. Do you want the truth, Arya? He asked the Queen of Omega. Yes, she answered shortly. I don't know what really happened. She started to glow blue. She was ready to punch him. That's not the answer I want. It's the only one I have. The Normandy was attacked, and I lost 2 years of my life. Attacked by whom? The tribe of Athame, he told her. Once I told them I was on board, they opened fire. That was stupid of you. I know. He sighed in exasperation. Look, can we sit down, or are we just going to stand while talking to each other? You'll sit when I say you can sit. Her voice was quick and sharp, cracking like a whip. What else do you want to hear, Arya? I was gone for 2 years without any warning to you or to anyone else. I don't know how. All I do know is that I woke up in Tribe Lab and was being tested like some kind of damn experiment. I hope that you're not trying to get some kind of sympathy from me. No, I didn't. But you can't tell me you never been trapped by your enemies before. No, I wasn't. Becoming the Pirate Queen hadn't been without its perils. But I was able to get out of them alive. So did I. You had help from the Akatsuki. I would have thought that you wouldn't want to work with them just because of that name. I don't have a choice. Their leader blackmailed me. I see. She finally turned around and walked into the house proper. Follow, she commanded him. He did so. You want me to cook something? He asked her as they walked to the lounge room. Absolutely not, she replied instantly. He grinned, liking her reaction. What? Afraid of what'll come when I clean the dishes. She didn't say anything in reply, but he had a feeling that she was thinking of what happened that night. The food was excellent, wasn't it? She looked back at him. It could have used some improvements. Duly noted, but you were the one who enjoyed it. They sat down in the lounge, opposite chairs from one another. They stared at each other for a long couple of seconds. Finally, Naruto broke the silence. So, what are we now? He asked her. What do you mean? She asked him. You know what I mean. It's been 2 years, Arya. Are we the same fuck buddies we were before I disappeared? Are we not? Are we something more? She knew what he meant, even though she did not say anything. Every time that they had slept together, she had taken the lead. But that last night before he disappeared, after the date, he took the lead. He went slow and gentle. To her surprise, she found herself responding to it. That night, they didn't fuck like normal. They made love. That night, she had melded her mind to his. He hadn't revealed anything about it when they were in the club. But now, in the privacy of her home, he revealed his uncertainty about it all. But her eyes were hard and steady as they looked at him. We are what we were before. Nothing more, she finally told him. He looked at her for a long time. Her posture nor her expression never changed. I see. I hope that you weren't foolishness enough to think that one time was enough to change me or make me fall in love. She asked with a scoff. She didn't believe in such a thing. One couldn't afford them here on Omega. He shook his head. No, I'm not that naive. I just wanted to see if you thought differently. Then why bother taking me out on a date in the first place? She had assumed that he had done in an attempt to woo her and gain power through her. I thought that even you of all people needed to have a night where someone treated you right, where you weren't the Pirate Queen of Omega or any other kind of title, just you. She knew he was sincere. She could tell just by looking at his eyes and listening to his voice. He was different from the lovers she's had before. He didn't assume, and he didn't want any of her power. But he looked past all the rumors and titles she had been given, and taken, and saw her, yet he did nothing to change her. It was something that she found mildly intriguing and also irritating. Her meld with him had shown her that he was a good man, and she always had good men coming after her, either to jail her or redeem her. He did either. A sound of a baby beginning to cry came from the adjoining doorways. She didn't react the way Naruto did, whipping his head to the sound. "There's a baby here?" he asked her, looking back at her. "Yes, there is." She stood up from her chair and walked to the door, disappearing from sight for a few minutes. When she came back, there was an Asari child in her arms. Her hard look was gone. Instead, there was a soft and warm smile directed at the baby. "There now," she said to her. "Mother's here." The child smiled happily at her and snuggled into her neck. Naruto stood up from his chair and looked at the child. She was probably about 2 years old. Her skin was the same hue as Arya's, but it was her eyes that got his attention. They were blue, a deep blue that was like looking at the ocean. He knew because they were the exact same hue of his eyes. All that went into his head and he made a conclusion that shocked him. "Arya is she?" He tried asking, only to find that he was having trouble saying the words. Arya looked at him, clearly amused. "Yes, she is. Meet your daughter, Kagaya." At the sound of her name, the child looked up. She saw him and watched him with her eyes. They were cautious but also curious, like she didn't know him, but she was curious about him too. How? He began to ask, only to stop himself. He knew the how of it, having read about it before. He took a breath and looked at her again. That night, was it intentional? Yes. She had melded with him just long enough to get what she wanted, not a second later. "Are you angry?" "Yes, I am." He could believe that she had used him like that, but the fact that she still did hurt him. His anger was beginning to burn inside him. But when he looked at Kagaya and how she watched him, his anger vanished in an instant. "Can I hold her?" Arya walked over to him and wordlessly held her arms open. He took their daughter out of her hands and into his own. She looked up at him, and he looked down at her. "Hello there, little Haim," he told her. "I'm Naruto. I'm your daddy." She reached up with her hand and touched one of his birthmarks, tracing it with her finger. "Daddy?" she repeated curiously. "Yes, that's right. I'm your daddy." She smiled and her eyes lit up with warmth. "Hi, Daddy," she said before snuggling against his chest. He began to rock her back and forth, a little uncertain at first but quickly figuring it out. "She's beautiful," he told Arya as he looked down at her, watching her drift back into sleep. "I know. And she doesn't have a hint of Izo in her," she replied as she sat down in her own chair. He looked up. "What? You heard me. I had her tested after she was born, like all Asari children are. The tests came back negative." "Are you sure?" A dread was beginning to fill his stomach, telling him that what was coming next was something he would be afraid of. "Yes, I am. I did the test twice more to be sure. Both came back negative." She paused for a moment, as if she was figuring out if she needed to tell him what came next. "Then I had her tested for chakra." Those words sent a bolt of something through him, realizing that dread. "No, yes. Your daughter is the first non-human to have chakra." "Well, not the first," Kurama commented with a hint of amusement. "But I'm guessing that she doesn't know about that." Naruto ignored the fox, keeping his attention on Arya. "How much?" he asked. "She's going to be a juggernaut when she's an adult." Kojiro was actually nervous when he told me the results. He gulped, thinking about what she had said. If she was truly going to be powerful when she was older, that kind of thing couldn't be left alone. She needs to be trained how to use it. "I am aware of that." "No, Arya. I'm not talking about having one of the Ronin or Kojiro teach her. I'm talking about proper training. When she's old enough, she needs to go to the academy." A look passed over her face at those words. "That will be decided when she's older. And she also needs to be kept secret from the galaxy. You know what kind of people and organizations would want her if they found out. The tribe would be just one of them. I need to keep the people who know about my daughter to an absolute minimum. I need to keep the people who see her even lower." He didn't like where she was going. "What are you trying to say, Arya? That this will be the only time you see her?" Kagaya stirred slightly in his arms. "You can't be serious." "I am very serious. I'm her father, Arya." He tried not to raise his voice at her so that their daughter could still sleep. "You can't keep me away from her. You would rather risk her safety by coming here again and again? People already know that we're sleeping with each other. My coming wouldn't be any weirder. We were sleeping with each other 2 years ago. And now you've got strings attached and shadows chasing you. I will not have her endangered because of you." She looked him right in the eye. "I assume you know that." He did. Kami, he did. He had only just met her, but already he didn't anything bad to happen to his daughter. Arya was right. The Akatsuki would love to get their hands on her just as much as the tribe would. He would not risk that. But still, to have only met your daughter and then told to keep away from her? It was a hard blow to him. Are you telling me to leave now? He asked the pirate queen of Omega. She shook her head. No, you can stay for the night. But once you leave, you can't come back. Do you understand? I do. But it's not going to be forever, Arya. She's going to grow up and she's going to have to learn how to use her chakra properly. When she's fully able to handle herself, I want to see her. That is not now. It wasn't an agreement, but it wasn't a rejection either. He took it with a nod of acknowledgement. Codex entry, Culture English. The human language known as English is the only known artificial language to have become so popular that it became the dominant language on Earth. Ironically enough, its origins were not through any scientific or artist's means but rather through criminal means. The basis of English is a mixture of high and low frontier and was used as a trader's language between various criminal organizations and smugglers to circumvent being caught and taken to court by the authorities on account of their words. When the War of Three Flags broke out and Midgard began launching attacks onto the frontier, known members of the criminal organizations came to the Iron Court and offered their services to the war effort. A part of those services was using the trade language to facilitate a code that would be unbreakable. The idea was successful and the teams of code talkers, the speakers, was a main factor to the duration of the war. English is a language that adapts any new language it comes across, taking words and putting them into its own use. A notable example of this action is after the war when the Midgardian language came into actual contact with it, doubling the size of it. The Down Under in its initial stage spoke majorly English. When war broke out, the rebels spoke solely in English, taking it and making it their own. After it became an independent nation, English became the national language of the Down Under. No one really knows who came up with the word English for the name of the language, but they do know who helped further the spread and popularity of it. The writer Kevin Brookwater was famous for his series of criminal investigation novels written completely in English, having wanted to capture the complete essence of the criminal underworld in the frontier. During his writing, he actually helped the language grow by borrowing words from different languages and transforming them into a set of slang within the language. Because of his inflating the language, he wrote the first English dictionary. According to popular belief, he came about this decision when the criminal organization he had been writing about kidnapped him in order to ask for it. That way they could figure out what the hell you're saying, as the quote goes. Chapter 39, The What of Who. Location Naruto. The first thing that he heard was Sakura. This has to stop. He saw Shikamaru saying those words as he and Sakura sat around a campfire. There were others there, all trying to keep themselves warm by the fire. But their faces were only shadows whereas the faces of his friends shined through the firelight. Why should I stop? Sakura asked Shikamaru. Her eyes were hard. Her hands were held out to the fire. Her knuckles were bruised, just like the rest of her hands. We are making progress. What you're doing isn't progress, Sakura. It's slaughter. We're making our way to the capital. I call that progress. You're killing everyone who gets in your way. That's not what we came here for. We came here to end the war. I'm aware of that, Shikamaru. He pointed a finger at her. Don't use my words against me, Sakura. The locals are completely terrified of us now because of you. His voice and his face didn't have their usual lazy or semi-serious expression. They were alive with anger and fury, but she didn't seem to notice. She kept her gaze to the fire. Naruto couldn't see what was going through her eyes. It was hidden by the fire. The rest of her face showed nothing. Good, she finally said. This isn't good. You're just like the Midgardians who attacked Unraikyo. No, that's a compliment. You're acting worse. That got her attention as she swung her head to him. I am nothing like them. They are monsters. Butchers. She all but shouted at him. And how are you any different now? Even though Shikamaru's voice was challenging her, Naruto could also hear a tone of curiosity. He truly wanted to know the difference. He wanted to see that his old friend was still under there, not this person. I've offered them mercy. Mercy? He repeated incredulously. Yes, mercy, she said again. The worst part was that she believed her own words. It wasn't a mantra that she kept telling herself. It was a simple belief that she was carrying as she went on through this campaign. Your idea of mercy to demand the murderers to come out when you've come across every single kind of settlement, and when they don't or they claim that they're not there, you demolish the place. How is that mercy? Tell me, Sakura, at least I'm giving them a chance. That's more than what Mikoto got. Kami, Sakura, Naruto thought to himself. What have you done? He knew that she had been going through a difficult time since her daughter was put to the ground. But this was going too far. Your daughter wasn't the only one who was unreikyo, Sakura. You keep forgetting that. The anger in his eyes drained away and was replaced with a tiredness Naruto had seen before, back during his war. This will not go on. From now on, you're on rear detail, helping out the wounded. She turned her eyes to him. You can't be serious. I am completely serious. Right now you're not an assist. You're a liability. We can't afford that. This is a campaign to end the war, not for vengeance. I deserve to be on the front line, Shikamaru. The campfire rang with her volume and anger. You don't deserve anything, Sakura. His voice matched hers. You break ranks again and I will send you back home myself. Got it? She looked like she wanted to say something else entirely. But she didn't say it. I get it. Good. Awuga, 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 awuga. Oh, not again. Groaned Naruto as he dragged himself out of the bed. Joker, this had better be a real one. He shouted. They were barely 2 days out of Omega. It is, Commander, Joker replied through the intercom. He threw the closet open and started assembling the armor. What is it? I don't know what type, but the ship's got tribe markings. Can we fight it? Considering our track record, I'm not going to risk it. I'm bugging us out of here. He threw the chest plate on as well as the boots. He grabbed the gloves along with the guns and ran for the door. Joker, I'm on my way down. He secured the guns, put on the gloves, and slammed a fist on the elevator button. Commander, I'm not staying up here to do nothing, Joker. Fine, then prepare for a bumpy ride. All hands, man stations. Awuga, awuga, and would somebody turn off that fucking alarm? Naruto shouted as the elevator doors opened and he stepped in. It's more annoying than Kiba when he was right. A little busy here, Commander. Joker shouted through the intercom. The elevator shook slightly and Naruto flew against the wall. Ow, watch yourself there, Naruto, Kurama told him, completely calm. You almost hit your head. Gee, you think? Now's not the time to get snippy with me. Save that for the enemy. The doors opened and he found himself in the command deck. Everyone was rushing around, getting to their stations and shouting things at one another. What do you want me to do, Joker? He shouted over the din. Can you stand around and look pretty? His pilot asked back. I'm serious here, Commander, this is Miranda, the aforementioned woman spoke through the intercom. Can you get to the galactic map? He was a little offended by that question. Of course I can. It's right in front of me, then please get up there. When this ship was designed, something was added to the map that would aid in battles like this. He quickly went over to the map and climbed up the steps. Alright, what do I do? Don't bring up the map like you would usually do. Instead, place your hands on the railing and channel your chakra through it. He hesitated. Can I do that with what I have? If he couldn't, he was subjecting himself to pain that could and would drive him to the ground. I do not know, Commander. You'll have to find out yourself. Talk about a lack of confidence, Saiken commented. She doesn't really know him, does she? Chome asked. Well, she hasn't known him that long, Gyuki remarked. Give her time. Hey, what have I said about talking to me in the third person? Naruto asked them. And no sarcasm, he added. Where's the fun in that? Kurama asked. He looked down at the rail and then at his gloves. Hey, Miranda, will it work with the gloves on? He asked. He hoped it would. Taking the gloves off just to do what she wanted seemed a little silly. Hang on! Joker suddenly shouted. The ship jerked to the side, sending everyone that way. Naruto barely stopped himself from being hit in the side by the rail. Now isn't the time for doubt, Commander, Miranda told him. You're going to have to trust me here. It's a simple yes or no question. There was a sound of both annoyance and exasperation. Yes, it will work with the gloves. In fact, it will enhance what you're going to be doing. Was that so hard? Gaki, focus! Ordered Kurama. I know! He put his hands on the rail and began to channel his chakra. The rail didn't glow blue at the contact. Instead, his chakra right into it. There was a tugging sensation at his feet that traveled up his body. Everything suddenly became narrowed into one point, and he found himself being dragged into it with a sharp pull. When the pulling stopped, he found himself in outer space. What in the name of Kami? He shouted as he looked around, trying to figure out what was going on. But all he could see was space, space, and more space, with a lot of stars and a couple of planets thrown in for good measure. Commander, you need to focus, Miranda told him. What's going on here, Miranda? He demanded instead. It's something the techs had taken to calling full immersion. Sounds like something a Yamanaka would name. One too many times watching Ino interrogate prisoners gave him a healthy respect for the powers and skills of her clan. Actually, It was a Yamanaka who named it, of course. How could it not be? I told you to focus, Naruto. The QB reminded him. So focus. The fox had a point. Alright, what's going on? Why am I looking at space? Full immersion allows you to immerse yourself fully into the navigation of the ship. What you see is the space we're in right now. Turn your head to the right. He did and saw another ship there. Is that the tribe's ship I'm looking at? Yes, man, Joker's right. It is an ugly-looking ship. Commander, could you please focus? What do you want me to do? You instruct, I drive, Joker said, joining the conversation. Alright, but how am I seeing all of this? Am I like the ship now or something? He looked around but he did not see the Normandy anywhere, something like that. But perhaps we could focus on the fight going on here? I've got torpedoes launching. Another voice shouted into the void. Naruto watched as the tribe's ship fired torpedoes. They flew through space, coming towards him. Joker, drop! He instantly shouted. I can't just do that. Do you know how dangerous it is to suddenly drop a spaceship? His pilot demanded. Do something. Go to the sides or go up. You've got torpedoes coming at you. I'm aware. Hang on. He felt the sight of space shift to the left, but he felt nothing move. He let this pass over him as he kept his focus on the torpedoes. They sailed right by where he had been just moments ago. That's one problem down. And the question is, now what? Saiken asked. You've heard the guy, Gyuki replied. We need to get out of here. Why should we? Sun asked. Let's fight back. I'm with him, Shikaku agreed. Attack them. The last time that happened, the ship was destroyed. Koko told him. They got us by surprise. We can take them now. They'd tear us to shreds. Naruto, what are you thinking? Matatabi asked him. He thought about it, and an idea came to him. Joker, is there any way to board that ship? Before his pilot could answer, Miranda did. Commander, with all due respect, are you out of your mind? Do you realize how dangerous that is for you? You go try boarding that ship, you'd be playing right into their hands. You know, she does have a point, Isabu pointed out. I wasn't talking to you, Miranda, Naruto told her. I was talking to Joker. I'm going to have to agree with her on this one, Commander, Joker told her. Trying to get even close to that ship would be akin to suicide. They've got better armor and better weapons than us. Plus, if we do board her and you lead the charge, all they'd have to do is trap you and you're back in their hands. So it's not going to happen. They're readying another round of torpedoes. Someone announced. Naruto wasn't exactly sure how he could hear that person, but it didn't matter. He kept his attention on the enemy ship. Alright, so do you have any ideas on what to do? Like I said before, bug out. How? He asked. I'm going to need your help there. I'll be too busy avoiding the ship. Torpedoes firing. Someone shouted and Naruto saw the event happening himself. Joker! He shouted out a warning. I heard, so do something about it. What did you think I was doing? A tap dance? He demanded. The space moved again as the ship avoided the torpedoes. But that wasn't the end of it. The torpedoes curved along with them. Joker, the torpedoes are still following us. Did they change loads or something? I guess. I'm not going to try and figure it out. We still need to avoid them. Already on it, he replied. Suddenly, the space started moving and spinning around too. The blonde might have seen something fly past quickly, but he wasn't exactly sure. Just as soon as it had happened, it stopped. Oh, that was disorienting, Chomi said. Try nauseating, Isabu replied with a groan. Joker, what the hell was that? Naruto demanded. That was what's called a barrel roll. Oh, I feel sick, the Sanbai moaned. Hey, there's no throwing up in my mind. He instantly shouted. Got it? That's not happening. I make no promises. Don't you dare do it, Isabu. Commander, about that help? Shouted Joker, getting his attention again. His pilot's voice was strained with effort. He must be doing his best to keep the ship going. If he wasn't, they would probably be dead or crippled by now. But as much as he wanted to help, Naruto couldn't have felt more stuck. What do you want me to do? He demanded. Help me out here and plot a way free of this mess. That's why you went in there in the first place. I did that because Miranda told me. I have no idea what I'm doing. That's usually your case, Kurama told him. So just wing it like you normally do in these situations. I will assist you, Commander Uzumaki, Idai suddenly announced, joining the intercom conversation. Normally, he would have expected the orb to pop up somewhere. But all he got was a voice. He'd take it. What I'm doing, Idai? He asked. He could tell right away that this was going to be something that he would need directions to. Raise your hands up to your mid-chest. He looked down at his hands, still looking like they're holding onto a railing. Can I do that? Yes, you can. Disengaging from full immersion requires you to stop the flow of chakra to your hands. Now raise your hands to your mid-chest. He did so, still feeling the weight of them even though he was supposed to be in a place where there was no gravity. Okay, now what? Nothing happened when he had done it. Extend your arms out to their full length. Already did that. Still nothing is happening. Swing them away from your body as if you were opening a piece of paper. It was a weird thing to say, but what could he do about it? It wasn't like he could challenge the instructions. He did as he was told, and suddenly everything zoomed outwards. Stars, planets, nebulas, and everything in between shrank from sight until he was staring at the entirety of the galaxy. Whoops, went too far. That's all you have to say? Sun asked him. You're staring at the damn galaxy. I know, don't beat it over my head. Bring your hands back together, Commander. He looked at the galaxy. It was a beautiful sight, but also one that made him nervous. It was like looking everything that had been made in the universe, so many things that had been created and passed on. It was like an organism that had its own ecosystem that was far too complex for him to ever understand. He couldn't find himself in that giant organism, let alone the ship. And Naruto, now is not the time to realize how truly small and pathetic you are, Kurama barked sharply. If you die here, it'll just prove how pathetic you are. Hey, I am not pathetic, he protested instantly. Then focus already. Or do you want to be caught by the tribe again? If I follow your instructions, I'll go right back to the ship's location, right? That is correct, Commander. Full immersion has been programmed to fall back to the Normandy's location. Torpedoes inbound again. Someone suddenly shouted. These guys just don't give up. Joker grumbled. Guardian weapons getting a lock on the torpedoes. Now that's what I like to hear. Commander, if you could please pull your arms in, Edei told him. Right, he replied. He began to bring his arms in, but did it slowly. The galaxy started to grow bigger and bigger with each second he pushed in. The galaxy became the nebula, and the nebula became the system. Hold, he did just that. What now? He could see the Normandy and the tribe's ship fighting it out, but they were so small they could have been considered toys from this distance. Unclench your hands and hold them out with the palms facing outward. He did that. Done. You're now able to move the screen to around to find what you are looking for. In this case, a way out, Joker chimed in. Any time now would be greatly appreciated. Working on it, Joker, said Naruto. Well, work faster. These guys are getting insistent. Another torpedoes away. Another set? Yes, sir. For the love of the saints. The pilot of the Normandy groaned out. Guardian weapons already tracking them. Someone else announced. Getting a lock in 3, 2, 1, fire. That's a hit. Torpedoes are taken out. Their cannon is warming up. They're getting ready to fire. Commander, find us a way out. Joker shouted. The blonde was already looking through the system. His control of the screen was a little wobbly at first. He wasn't really used to this kind of screen movement, even after getting used to the times. When he moved, he either went too far or too short. The system flew around like he was throwing a ball against a wall, but once he was able to figure it out and slowed it down, as well as speed it up enough, he looked around for that way out. They were a day's worth of space travel from Omega, so they couldn't just fly back there for safety. Plus he knew that Arya wouldn't like it if he did that to her station. They would need another way out, but he could find it. I need to look at more of the system, he thought to himself, clenching his hands into fists again. He pulled them apart a little bit, and the system shrunk until he could see more of it. He stopped and unclenched his hands, holding out the palms again. He started searching again and soon found the solution. Joker, how short of a hop can the ship do? I can pull off a jump inside a system. Okay, go and do that. Once that happens, you can fly towards the nearby mass relay and jump to a different nebula altogether. Alright, but you're going to have to plot that out yourself. How do I do that? Use one of your fingers to touch the Normandy, Edei instructed. He did that and then she continued. Now use that same finger and place it on a location where you want to go. That will mark the jump. From there, you can drag the finger to the mass relay to mark your path. Well, sounds easy enough, Sun remarked. It usually is, but then it turns out to be otherwise, Chome said. Not helping, Naruto told the two of them as he concentrated on the instructions. He was aware that there needed to be a certain distance from the ship to the mass relay to make certain that using it would work. But any further out and they probably wouldn't make to the relay in time to make it through safely. Plus there couldn't be anything in the way, otherwise the ship could very well end up crashing. How we doing, Commander? Asked Joker, interrupting his concentration. I'm getting there, Joker. Just give me time, he replied, still focusing on the right spot for the jump. We're running out of there. Their cannon is ready to fire, Commander. His pilot shouted. I know. Hang on. There. He found the spot, too late. Brace for a barrel roll. He expected for everything to spin and move like before, disorienting everything he could see. But with luck, that didn't happen. Maybe it was because he was seeing things too big to happen. He didn't know, and frankly, it didn't matter at that moment. He waited in a moment of dreadful silence. Joker, tell me you're still out there. I don't want to be stuck in limbo here. We're still here, Joker announced. Any damage? He asked. We managed to avoid it. Tell me you got something worked out. Yeah, I do. He touched the point he had found with his finger, and then dragged that finger to the mass relay. The giant structure, but almost miniature in his view, glowed blue when his finger was held on it. Got it, Joker told him. Now there's just the problem of getting out of this alive. I've got an idea for that. But it's going to require someone to man the cannon. That shouldn't be too hard, and I need it in chakra mode. That'll be even easier to do. How so? He asked. Full immersion allows you to direct the chakra flow into the ship and cast the jutsu, EDI told him. Hey, I was about to say that, Joker protested. I believe now is not the time to worry about that, Mr. Moro. Guys, focus please, Naruto said, getting their attention. Is the chakra amplifier already put in? No, it is not, EDI said. Well, that needs to change. Who's in the cannon room right now? That would be Gurus, Joker told him. Okay, get him on the line and tell him what to do. Let me know when he's ready. Would you mind explaining the plan to the rest of us? I will when everything is ready. Just get Gurus going and avoid the other ship in the meantime. It's coming around again, announced one of the crew. Torpedoes are firing again. Someone else shouted. Guardian systems are tracking the torpedoes. Locking on, firing. That's a hit. Torpedoes are taken out. How is Gurus coming with the switch? Naruto asked. He just needs a few more seconds, Joker told him. Do we have that? He was aware that seconds counted in a battle, more so nowadays than before. The ship could very well be taken out before Gurus could finish his work. Must you be so negative about it? Kurama asked him. I'm not being negative, he replied. Sure sounds like it to me. Yes, we've got the seconds, Joker told him. You just hang on to your ass while I dance around with this fucker. I'll shrink the screen down to see what's going on. He pulled his hands in and the screen shrunk down to a size he could see both the Normandy and the other ship with ease. The size of the ships made them look like they could fit into the palm of his hand. He watched as the Normandy continually evaded the other ship, always moving around or ahead. The seconds almost seemed to drag on and on. But Joker finally came back to him. Gurus has switched them out. Thank you. He brought his hands together and began to concentrate. He was hoping that this would work. Not only did he have to worry about whether or not he would fall down screaming his head off, the kind of jutsu he was trying to do was not the kind that came easily to him. He would have to concentrate hard for it to work. Would you mind filling me in on the plan here? His pilot asked him. We're going to get out of here. I was hoping for something a little more specific than that. Details are good things. I'm going to use a jutsu to get the ship out of here. How? He asked. You gonna use the kind of jutsu that'll make the ship disappear? Nope, I'm going to attack the other ship. You're going to do what? Commander, you do realize that is completely and utterly insane, right? Miranda asked him. Nice to hear from you again, Miranda. I was wondering where you went. Is now really the time to be your usual self? Kurama asked him. When can I be? He asked back. Commander, we're trying to get away from the enemy ship, not trying to destroy it. Joker all but shouted at him. I know what I'm doing, Joker. Are you sure about that? Have I ever let you down before? Didn't you already ask that question? Shikaka asked him. He ignored the tanuki. Just get that cannon facing the enemy ship. I'll take care of the rest. Commander, now is not the time to argue with me, Joker. Just do it. Aye, Commander. Commander, this is certifiably insane, Miranda told him, taking over the conversation. Beginning realignment of the cannon, he heard one of the crew announce. The voice sounded like it belonged to a man from Midgard, and he wondered for a brief moment if it was Eric helping out. We can't fight that ship, not with what we have. They're too powerful. Perhaps you should have thought that when you were building this crate, he replied as he concentrated, beginning to fold his hands through the seals. The cannon is realigned and pointed at the enemy ship. That Midgardian announced. Once the series of hand seals was done, he readied the jutsu and then opened himself to the ship. He wasn't exactly sure how he did it. It was something that he did on instinct. But it worked. For a moment, he felt more than himself, like he was the ship. He could feel the coldness and vastness of space surrounding his skin, but it did not worry about him. He could feel the tiny people running around inside him, all in a panic because of the enemy they faced. He knew that it was an enemy he could not face. And so he would stall this enemy so that he might take away his people. His weapon was aimed. His armament was ready. Katon, go Kakyu no Jutsu! He cried out, becoming himself again. The fireball flew out of the cannon and out into space. It was an impossibility, he knew that. Fire could not burn without oxygen to support it, and in space there was no oxygen. But the chakra itself was what was giving it life. It struck the enemy ship, washing over it. Enemy ship has been struck by the jutsu. What's the damage assessment? Finding out now, son of a bitch! The crew member swore. That was never a good sign. There was no damage. I repeat, there was no damage to the ship. Your plan didn't work, Commander. Joker told him. I heard, Joker. And you're wrong. The plan worked. He could see the success of it just by looking at the other ship. How? His pilot demanded. Your jutsu did nothing. Yes, it did. It made a smoke screen. Make that hop, Joker, he ordered. Now, you got it. He felt the ship become faster than light as it fled the other ship. The stars overhead and below him became mere streaks against the dark space. When it finally slowed down, it was only so they could fly towards the mass relay at the right speed. The giant construction came closer and closer, until they were so close that a bolt of blue lightning struck the ship. He felt a surge of energy pass through him. It was nothing he had felt before, and it enhanced everything about him. Holy shit! He thought to himself as the energy ran rampant through him. He could feel and see everything. Seeing into distances not possible by human eyes was nothing to him now. He could reach out and conquer the galaxy with this power. It was only when the ship suddenly shot forward the energy left his body just as quickly as it came. He was left panting and breathing hard, trying to get his breath back into his body. The Biju weren't any better. What the flying fuck was that? Kurama demanded. I don't know, but it felt really, really good, Matatabi said as she stretched out her body. I think it might have been from the mass relay, Isabu suggested, sounding more than slightly dazed. For some reason, he was on his back. Can we do it again? Shikaka asked. That's probably not a good idea, Sun declared, waving back forth. He looked over at Koko, shook his head for a moment, and then asked, Hey, when did you become the Jubi? Jubi? Where? Demanded Chome, flying around and around and around in circles. Stop that, I'm getting dizzy just by watching you, Koko told him. Okay. Gaki, next time this has to happen, pull out before we go through, Kurama told the blonde. I don't think we can't take another round of that. Noted, he said, finally getting his breath back. When he looked around him, all he could see was stars going past so fast. They were there 1 second and then gone the next, becoming nothing but mere quick streaks of light. We did it, Commander, Joker said. We made it out. I gathered that, Joker. I saw it happen, he replied. I'm pulling out of full immersion now. I'll see you on the outside then. Signal Morden to come to head to the mess table. I want to talk to him about some things. He stopped the flow of chakra to his hands and he was immediately pulled out of everything he saw by his feet, getting that same tugging feeling in the opposite direction. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself on the command deck, right where he was before. Commander, are you all right? Kelly asked him. Rush to the head, he told her. Just give me a moment. Interesting, Morden said once Naruto was done. Tell him what had happened. No one bothered them at the mess table. They could tell it was a serious discussion. Full immersion acts as amplifier for chakra and other energies. Contact with mass relay heightens effect, akin to narcotic. That would be a bit of an understatement, Naruto replied. Plus, I think that when I was inside the ship, I didn't have the problems of the inhibitor. It was something he hadn't noticed until he was in the elevator again. When he cast the jutsu, everything in his body felt normal. Since Katon Jutsu was not one of his strong suits, he would have thought that he'd be hit with pain as soon as he cast it. But there had been nothing. He had felt completely fine. Again, interesting. Suggests that ship is capable of supporting you in chakra use. Would recommend that you don't get attached. Why? Full immersion would be akin to 4-line, keeping you attached. Best not to get used to it. Would recommend that it is used only in short bursts. Thanks, Morden. He leaned back in his chair. It was comfy, unlike the original Normandy's chairs. How's the research coming along? Not much progress. Hope to make more soon. Do you need another sample from me? The Solarian shook his head. No, not necessary. We'll let you know when sample is needed. All right, he said. Commander, we may have gotten a stroke of luck, Miranda said, walking up to the mess table. We'll head back to lab. Must continue work, Morden said, standing up. He walked off without another word. Why do we have luck, Miranda? Naruto asked her as she took the Solarian seat. We're around you constantly. The luck starts to rub off, Shikaka said with a straight face that sent the other Biju into sniggers. That's actually true, Gyuki agreed as he tried to keep the sniggering to a minimum. The mass relay you directed the ship to is currently sending us into the Eagle Nebula, Miranda told him, being all business. Okay. That didn't mean much to him. Inside the nebula is the Ymir system. That system has the planet Corliss in it. Again, okay. She must have been fighting the urge to roll her eyes greatly, even though she kept her face in a neutral expression. Commander, have you read the dossiers at all? She asked him. I skimmed. Then you are aware of the Krogan warlord Ochre? Vaguely. He knew Ochre was a Krogan. The picture helped. Do you mind filling me in? You're trying to annoy her on purpose, Kurama said. Was it that obvious? He asked innocently. What gave it away? Your sarcasm is impressive, as always. Thank you. Ochre is a Krogan who is old enough to have fought in the Krogan rebellions, Miranda began. He's obsessed with curing the genophage and has been working on that exact thing probably ever since it had been deployed. And how does this concern us? He just sounded like an old nut going over something constantly where all others had stopped. Later, he realized that the same could be said about Orochimaru, and he had a private chuckle about it. Intel is sketchy about this, but we have gotten news that Ochre went to the tribe at one point during the past 2 years. That's it? We're going after this guy because he went to the tribe once? He asked her. Talk about thin, Saiken remarked. It's not how many times he went to the tribe. Rather, it's what he did there is where the sketchiness comes in, Miranda replied. What do you mean? We're not sure, but it is possible that while he was there, Ochre successfully stole a sample of your chakra and has been using it since to help fuel his obsession. If it's true and he's successful, not only would he be able to cure the genophage, he would have created a way for Krogan to wield chakra. Okay, that's bad, Kurama finally decided. No shit, Naruto agreed. He knew that not all Krogan were like Rex. If they were given a chance to fight back, they would take it. And giving them chakra would be one hell of a chance. How long until we reach the system? He asked Miranda. It will be a few days, she answered. When we get there, we head right for the planet. Chakra in the hands of the wrong people is dangerous. That is why only humans can use it, Commander. She stood up and walked away. He watched in silence as she walked. Just because he didn't say anything, didn't he mean he didn't have an answer? He would wait for her to see it. Location, Corliss. The shuttle bumped and rattled as it flew through the planet's atmosphere. Everyone inside fought to keep on their seats or where they stood, holding on to what they could for dear life. Ugh, I think I'm going to hurl, Ruko groaned in her seat. Please don't, Miranda told her, standing across from her. You don't have any idea how much this shuttle cost. Out of them all, she looked the least affected from the flight. The blonde hated her for it. You're right. I don't. That doesn't mean I ain't gonna blow chunks if this keeps up. Yeah, they like each other, Chomi said. If the Nanabai could smile, he would. Good call, Gaki, Kurama told Naruto. But even as they were all but thrown around in the shuttle, a few of them were casual about it. You know, I think this is probably less bad than the Mako, Gura said to Naruto from where he stood. He had been cleared to fight by Chukwas and he was itching for it. The crew of the Normandy hadn't packed armor for a Turian and he hadn't gone shopping for a suit, while Omega, for quite some time, so he was stuck with his old suit. Naruto looked at the Turian from where he sat. He wasn't wearing the robe this time around, figuring that it wouldn't really impress the Krogan they were going after. It would probably depend on who was driving the Mako, he replied. Well, your driving was definitely worse than this. I've never driven in such conditions. The shuttle shook violently, as if the weather outside was helping him prove his point. When does that count? Conditions affect the driving. Since when? He asked. Since always, the blonde replied. Weather conditions have always affected travel. That wouldn't matter with your driving. Mr. drove off a cliff and then drove back up it. Do you see a cliff out there? I can't see anything out there. This thing doesn't have any windows. The shuttle rattled, making him rattle with it. Then it settled and so did he. Well, there's an upside to this. What's that? Kwan Misley isn't driving. I heard that, Gurus, the hunter said on the far side of the shuttle, standing beside a sitting Jacob. Both of them looked at her. She hadn't really said anything in the flight down, despite being one of the people who wasn't affected by the flying. Some might have found her silence unnerving, others didn't really care about it. You were supposed to, Kwan Misley, the Turian finally said. Have you any idea what your driving is like for us? I thought that it was fine. Of course you would. You were driving. It couldn't be that fucking bad, Ruko said. The shuttle shook once more, and she buried her head under her hands. Say that once you've actually driven with her, Ruko, Naruto said to her. And pray that never has to happen. How much longer is this trip going to take? Eric asked. He was too big to sit in one of the seats, and so was forced to stand. He was wearing a better set of armor than before, and had his horned helmet resting on the pommel of his axe, which strapped to his back. But he looked as green as Ruko. You want the technical answer or the non-technical answer? Gurus asked him. Because if you want technical, talk to Mordin. But before the Solarian could speak, the pilot did. It looks like we're through the worst of it. It should be smooth flying from here on out, he announced over the intercom. Already the shuttle was rattling and jumping less than before. Thank you, Kami, Musashi said in a grateful voice. He didn't look as bad as Eric, but it was a close thing. Gurus shook his head at the two of them. You guys need better stomachs. Be fair, Gurus, Kwan miserly said, surprising those who knew her. Not all of us are at Rex's level of tolerance. That's actually a good point. Are you talking about not Rex? Miranda asked them. I don't know anyone who had a mother that would have been cruel enough to name their child Rex, Naruto told her in a complete deadpan. Some of his tenants laughed at that. That was a good one, Chome said. But Rex isn't here, so points for funniness are deducted, Shikaka said seriously. I was under the impression that Rex was a good name for a Krogan, Miranda said to the blonde. What does it mean? Absolute destruction? He asked back. Rex didn't destroy everything, Gurus reminded him. So absolute wreckage? He suggested to the Turian. He did do that a lot. So did you. What was Rex able to do? Jacob asked, bringing their attention to the main topic. He had the impressive ability to sleep anywhere, in anything, and in any condition, Naruto told him. Every time we were in the Mako, he'd fall asleep faster than any of us could blink. Even Kwan Misley wasn't enough to make him wake up, Gurus continued. I think we all hated him for being able to do that. I know I was. I found us a landing spot close to the target, the pilot suddenly announced. I'm bringing us down. It's about fucking time. Ruko declared loudly, hopping from her seat. We're not off this thing yet, Miranda said to her. But we will be soon, Naruto said, standing up from his seat too. He looked at everyone in the shuttle. Weapons check, he declared. Those who were sitting down now stood up. Together, they all began checking over their weapons. For some, like Ruko, it was a simple process. Was the gun loaded? Were her biotics ready for the fight? For others, like Musashi and Eric, the process was much more complicated. Were their weapons honed and ready? Did the mortar have enough ammunition? Were their secondary weapons good to go? They all shuffled around in that little space, checking their weapons and armor. The shuttle slowed down before coming to a complete stop. Remember, we're not sure if Ochre is on this planet by choice, Miranda told them all. We should assume that there will be hostiles. Thank you, Mom, Ruko said with a sarcastic roll of his eyes. All right, people, time to play the game, Naruto said to them all, activating his helmet. The hatch opened and they disembarked. The shuttle took off once they were all out. All around them were the remains of giant ships, either piled up or sticking right into the ground. It was ships, 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 and more ships everywhere. This place looks like a junkyard, Eric said as he looked around, his axe already in his hands. I think that's what this planet is for, Jacob said, trying not to smell the air. He had limited success. It was like smelling old fuel lines soaked in a concoction that he did not want to figure out the contents. I thought the term was recycling center, Gurus replied. How about we go with fucking shithole? Ruko asked, half sarcastic and half serious. That works. No hostiles, Miranda announced after scanning the immediate area. No shit, cheerleader, Ruko told her. There is only one measure of success. Kill or be killed. A voice shouted through a nearby loudspeaker. Perfection is your goal. They all looked up and around, trying to find the point of origins. Loudspeakers? Said Gurus. Someone likes the sound of their voice. Tone of voice suggests human female. Mordin began to speculate. Possibly middle-aged. Why is she here? I don't know, Musashi said. But I've got a feeling that we're going to find out. We're here to find a Krogan warlord, not discovering why a woman is here, Miranda said to them all. We have to keep moving. When did you get put in charge? Ruko snapped at her. Ruko, ease off, Naruto told his sister. She's right. Move up, he said to everyone else. They moved forward on the path through all the wreckage. It almost felt like they were walking through the half-eaten bones of a long dead beast. There were plenty of spots for any potential enemies to hide and ambush them from, so all eyes were open and searching. Kinda wish that you had the Rinnegan now, don't you, Gaki? Kurama asked his Jinchuriki. A little bit, he admitted. The last time he had tried activating it, his eyes felt like they were being stabbed out and set on fire simultaneously. He had screamed for a good 20 minutes after the attempt, and couldn't open his eyes for an hour afterwards. He had a feeling that the Rinnegan would probably be among the last things he would get back once the inhibitors were gone. Being hired is merely the beginning, the voice on the loudspeaker continued. You must earn your place in the mighty army we are building. Grandiose much? Asked Gurus. Raise his question of what army, Mordin said as they climbed a short flight of stairs. Must also question if she is in league with Ochre. If she is, let's just hope that it's just the one woman, Jacob said. They turned a corner and saw a bigger flight of stairs before them. At the top of the stairs behind a short barricade were 3 humans in Blue Sun's armor. You had to say it, Musashi told him. The Blue Sun saw them and instantly became active. Intruders! Intruders! Intrud! Fire one, Eric said calmly, his mortar at the ready. It fired 1 shell at the barricade. It struck, making the barricade explode along with the 3 Blue Suns. The sound was barely notable, hardly sounding off in their ears. Impressive, Kwan Misley said to him as he put the mortar away. Thank you, he said in reply. Tell me, how did you cancel out the noise? That kind of explosion should have been at least loud. He shrugged as they went up the stairs. I simply added a chemical that would act as a muffler. Really? She asked. You're going to have to tell me more later. I look forward to it. The other side of the barricade was a flight of stairs that went down. But just a little ways beyond it was a Blue Sun's merc lying on the ground. Shit. Shit. It won't stop bleeding. I'm gonna, son of a bitch, he said to himself as he stood up. His rambling got the attention of the team as they came close. Doesn't look that bad, actually, Gurus noted quietly. I don't think he needs to know that, Musashi replied just as quietly. When the merc finally saw them, he didn't attack. I knew it wasn't berserkers. Not at range. You're mercs. Or alliance. I'm not telling you anything. Yeah right, Sun declared with a snort. Push him right, he'll crack. What should I use? Naruto asked, looking for opinions. Go for the simplest one, Kurama told him. If you want some Medigel, you'll tell me what I want to know, he told the merc. And if I don't want the Medigel? The merc asked. You want the Medigel, he growled. Son of a. His growl turned painful. I don't know anything. I just shoot the overflow from the labs. The old Krogan up there, he's been really cleaning house lately. Why's that? Musashi asked. Jedor hired him to make an army, but the Krogan he creates are insane, so we use them for ammo training. It's all crap. I don't get paid enough to goddamn bleed out. Outpost 4? A voice spoke through his radio. Jedor wants us to move. We need coordinates on that Krogan pack. He looked at the radio and then at the group in front of him. His eyes settled on the helmet with the snarling fox. Naruto saw his eyes and flared his intent to kill just enough to make his point. You want the Medigel, you tell your friends to leave. He clenched his teeth in annoyance. Patrol? The last group dispersed. Lost sight 5 minutes ago, he spoke into the radio, wincing as he did. Dispersed? The other voice repeated. Jedor will be pissed. She wanted a show. You asked for a report, you got it. Dispersed, he said again. Understood. Returning to the labs, he turned his attention away from the radio and back to them. There. You see? I'm helping. Shoot him, Shikaka told Naruto. He promised to help, Isabu protested. He's a liability. You can't afford that, Naruto. Not here. As much I am loath to concede it, the Tanuki has a point, Kurama conceded. Oh, thank you for the compliment, Kurama. Really, you shouldn't have. Shove it. Naruto, you said you would help HM, Saiken told the Jinchuriki. I know what I said, he replied. He looked the merc over once more. Miranda, give him the Medigel, he finally ordered. Both the merc and Miranda looked at him. Are you sure, Commander? She asked him. I said that if he talked, he'd get Medigel. Give him the Medigel. But, are you arguing with me, Miranda? He didn't turn his head, keeping his eyes on the merc. She closed her mouth before fatal words could fall out of them. No, Commander, she said tightly. Behind her, Ruko was grinning widely. Wipe that grin off your face, Ruko, he told his sister without actually looking at her. Miranda, give him the Medigel already. Everyone watched in silence as she approached the wounded merc and gave him the Medigel. He took it with a hiss of pain, but once he applied it, he started looking better. Thanks for that, he told Naruto. Start walking, the armored blonde replied shortly. He did just that. Ah, shit. Shit. He groused as he walked. Once he was out of hearing range, Naruto spoke again. Gurus, shoot him. The Turian looked at him in surprise. What? You heard me. Shoot him. But what, Gurus? He asked with a small challenge in his voice. You just gave the guy Medigel. You're right, I did. I never said that I would let him live. Now shoot him. His voice was cold and clear. He wanted the Turian to do something and he was still waiting for him to do it. There was no hesitation. He wanted it done. Geras looked at him one more time, trying to find something that would tell him why there was a sudden change in attitude about the blonde. This was not the Naruto he knew, a Naruto who could fire back a retort and smile about antics while still being able to handle himself in a fight. No, this was a completely different Naruto, and he didn't really like this one. But there was nothing he could do about it now. Besides, the guy was a Blue Sun's merc. It wasn't like he was a civilian, he told himself as he raised his rifle up and fired one shot. The merc fell forward with a hole in the back of his head. There, he said as he lowered his rifle. Thank you, Naruto said back. His sister chuckled at it all. Fun, she declared. Not really, Geras told her. Move up, Naruto told everyone. We've got a warlord in a lab somewhere we need to talk to. And what do you mean exactly by talk to? Move up, he repeated himself. Training is part of your contract, the voice continued on the loudspeaker as they moved forward, walking past the dead merc. Failure to perform means liquidation, legal and otherwise. Does this woman ever shut up? Eric asked everyone. We'll ask her when we finally meet her, Musashi said to him. Will that work for you? Yes, it would. Thank you, Musashi. No problem. Heads up, hostiles, Miranda told them, coming to a halt in front of a small opening to a clearing. There was a ramp that led downward to the bottom of the clearing. On the other side were the hostiles, up high on a bridge and standing behind a low barricade. There were 2 of them, and they were probably just outpost guards. Still, better to take care of them now than worry about them later. Geras, Naruto began. I'm aware, Naruto, the Turian replied before he could finish, already raising his rifle. Hang on. I'll make it easier for you. Miranda flared her biotics and then grabbed hold of the guards, lifting them out of their cover. Hey! One guard yelped as he started to float in midair. What the fuck? The other began to curse. He was interrupted when his head suddenly sprouted a bloody hole. His partner also had the same hole in the same spot on his head. They're dead, Geras declared. Miranda let them go, and they fell to the ground with dull thuds. That's no fun, Ruko complained. She didn't get to shoot or throw any of them. We're not here to have fun, Ruko, Miranda told the blonde woman as they all moved down the ramp. We are here to complete a mission. Bite me, bitch, she snapped back. Anybody get the feeling that she would gladly do that? Sun asked. Probably not right now, Kurama answered. They're still in denial, remember? Of course I do. As they rounded the corner of the ramp, they saw a high bridge that joined the 2 parts of the higher area. Atop there were 2 more Blue Suns, and beyond them, at the far end of the clearing, were 2 more Blue Suns mercs. The closer mercs saw them and began shooting at them. Scatter! Naruto barked out. They all dove for the nearest cover and quickly began returning fire. You want me to take them out? Ruko asked her brother. She was standing beside him as they hugged a wall. You want to try, be my guest. He leaned out and fired a couple of shots, sending the mercs back into cover. She leaned out, her arms already flaring red with her biotic powers. Open wide and chow down, suckers! She shouted, pulling back her arm for a punch. Naruto, the second pair of mercs, said Shikaka suddenly. He looked at the pair and saw that one of them had a rifle with a scope on it. He had been around Geras long enough to know that it was a sniper's scope. Ruko! Get back! He reached out to pull her back. It didn't happen quickly enough. A shot rang out and Ruko cried out a pained fuck, and grasped her shoulder. Cammy, take those motherfuckers. I'll kill them myself. Even though she said that, her hand was still grasping her shoulder, bright blood leaking out between the fingers. Stay there, he told her. He leaned out again and took a few more shots, but the forward pair ducked down and avoided them. He looked further down to the second pair and tried aiming up a line of sight on them. Gaki, you're not Tenten, Kurama reminded him. You're not going to be able to make that shot. He lowered the Warhawk, knowing that the fox was right. He leaned back into cover and looked over at Geras. Second pair has a sniper, he told the Turian. Take him out. Trying to, Geras replied. He had seen the sniper and was trying to get a sight on him. But it was difficult with the 2 pairs working together. When the back pair ducked, the forward pair opened fire and stopped him. When he tried turning his attention to the forward pair, the back pair would keep him busy enough to distract him. The same was for the rest of the team. We have the solution! Eric shouted from where he and Kwan were crouching down behind a pile of rubble. His mortar was out and set on the ground. Keep them busy, Kwan told the rest of them. They did just that, keeping the 2 pairs from getting their attention on the disgraced and Hunter. The mortar fired once. The projectile flew through the air in an arc, flying down right at the second pair. It struck and immediately engulfed them in smoke. Finish off the first, Naruto ordered, seeing the opportunity. On it, Jacob called out, raising his weapon. 2 quick blasts and the first pair of Blue Sun's mercs were dead, slumped against the bridge. The far back, he said. Taken care of, Eric announced, standing up and placing the mortar back on his back. That smoke is poisonous. They should be dying right now. A quick look at the slowly dispersing smoke showed that the mercs were in their death throes, holding their necks like they were trying to preserve the last of their breath. I thought that you didn't carry poisonous ammo, Eric, Musashi said. They all began to come out of cover. He looked over at Kwan Misley. I do not. It was just something I quickly made, she said shortly. You quickly made poisonous smoke mortar ammunition? The ex-cop asked her. Yeah, she replied. It was something that she had done before. She knew how to do it, and once she did time after time, it became easily. He was impressed. Damn, kinda wish that we had you on Omega. We might have lasted longer. We did just fine on our own, Gers reminded him, a little curtly. Yeah, but every little bit helped. Miranda, give some of the Medigel to Ruko, Naruto ordered. She looked resigned at the order but did it anyway. She walked over to his sister who was still pressed against the wall with her hand clutching her shoulder. Here, she said, already pulling out a pack of Medigel and holding it out to her. Ruko took it with a snatch of her hand. Thanks, she said shortly before applying it. The blood stopped leaking once the gel did its work. She pushed off the wall and moved back out into the open. I'm good, she declared for them all to hear. She took her hand away from the shoulder, and the wound was already closed. We should move, Miranda said. Oh look, they're not arguing, Shikaka noted. Wait, Naruto told him. Thank you for stating the obvious there, cheerleader, Ruko said to her. There. Ah, right. Miranda's right, he said aloud, taking the lead. Once they were past the bridge, they turned right and followed the path up some stairs. They came into a clearing with a balcony on the other side. A group of Blue Sun's mercs were already there, perhaps 4 in total. They saw each other at the same time and responded at the same time too. Naruto felt a bullet hit his stomach but the shielding blocked it. He still felt the momentum of it, and almost fell to his knees. Only years of training kept him from actually doing that. 1 bullet was fine and he was able to take out one of the mercs with 2 futon rounds, but the others were able to take cover and respond to their attacks safely. They didn't that much cover on the ground and not enough for everyone, forcing most of them to be in the open. We need to level the field, Zaid shouted to the team. Eric, get that mortar going. Gurus told the blonde giant. Already on it, he replied. That would take too long. We need to level it now, Jacob declared. He was standing close to the Turian out in the open. Biotics, Naruto called out. Busy, Ruko replied. Same, Miranda said. Both of them were using the same small piece of broken ship for cover. It was small enough for them to be right against each other, back to back. Yes, we can see how busy they are, Shikaka said with a sniggering laugh. They're just trying to make sure they don't get killed, Saiken told him. You know, sometimes I think you've got a warped sense of humor, Shikaku. You're just realizing this now? Kurama asked. Zaid fired another burst from his rifle. The bullets flew through the air, but at the wall beyond the balcony wall. Damn it! He growled. He had aiming for the merc behind the barricade, but he ducked down beforehand. From behind the barricade came a fist with the middle finger raised. Fuck you! He looked back at the team. Can someone take down that balcony? We're all a little busy here. Ruko shouted at him. Her shoulder may have been healed, but it still felt a little sore to move around. If she used her biotics, it would feel even sorer. She had a gun, she could work with that. I got it, Musashi said as he put away his gun and drew his bakken. Could I have cover fire, please? On it, Eric replied, standing up with a shotgun and firing volley after volley at the balcony. It kept the mercs down, which was what he wanted. Musashi formed a seal with one hand as both of them came alive with chakra. Kotan Kato, steel style, cut. He swung the bakken in a wide vertical arc, slashing out a curved beam directed right at the balcony. It struck and then went through, making a sound akin an axe chopping wood. For 1 second, the balcony was normal. Then the exact spot the beam had cut through cracked and fell downward, taking the mercs on top with them in a loud crash. The mercs who weren't killed on impact were quickly finished off by the team. Zaid especially enjoyed doing it. Not so high and mighty now, are you? He asked the dead merc. And you wanted to keep him, Gyuki said to Shikaku. I still do, the Tanuki replied. The Krogans are your example and your warning. The voice on the loudspeaker spoke again as they finished. As ferocious as they are, failures are expendable. She must have been a real pleasure to be with in school, Sun remarked sarcastically. They followed the path down the left side until they found a hole that went into a wall that was far too high to climb. Shall we go in? Zaid asked in a half-sarcastic voice. Do you really have to ask that? Gurus asked him. Naruto was already moving forward into the hole. The rest of them followed him. They could see an orange glow flickering off the walls beyond the hole. They knew that was coming from a fire. The question was if the fire was intentional or not. They got their answer when they walked through the hole and found a wrecked room. Blue Sun mercs were up high on the far end. They were all shooting at one armored Krogan, who was standing just a few feet from them, and returning just as much as he was getting. The sounds of bullets flying back and forth raised a virtual cacophony of noise. It wasn't subtle, it was just there. They stood there for a long moment, watching the fight and the bullets go back and forth. Anyone else feel that we should go? Gurus asked out loud. Nope, Ruko replied. Well, that's you. Anyone else? He asked again. I've got that feeling, Musashi told him. I do as well, Eric agreed. Perhaps we should go back and find another way in? Jacob suggested, his eyes focused on the firefight, and his trigger finger staying away from the trigger. What are you, chicken? Zaid asked him. What's that? He's kidding, right? Sun asked. I don't know, Chome replied, drawing out the first word. Jacob sounded fairly serious, but he could just be one hell of a straight man. Okay, we back out now, Miranda told everyone. A few of them actually started to back up at her voice. I'm sorry, when did the cheerleader take charge? Ruko asked. And they're off, Saiken declared, but that was as far as they got. One of the mercs on the balcony saw them and immediately reacted. Code 6. Off-world presence. Shift fire from Krogan. Hostiles in the compound. He shouted to his team. Well, that's that, Naruto silently declared. The Rokubi complained. We have guests in the compound. If they're not killed immediately, all bonuses will be denied. The woman on the loudspeaker announced. When they heard that announcement, the majority of the team had the same thought. That was fast. The Biju, on the other hand, thought something different about it. That's an incentive to kill us? Matatabi demanded. I guess so, Isabu replied. What good could that do? A lot of people can live without any bonuses. Shinobi do it all the time. These guys ain't shinobi, they're mercs, remember? Yes, I am well aware of that. Eric, mortar, Naruto ordered. Snipers, take aim. Biotics, herd them into the open. Everyone else, get ready to start shooting. He made a little shaking move with his left arm and a smoke grenade dropped out. He tossed the gun and hand upwards and then slammed the grenade into the ground. It shattered and engulfed them in smoke. It was a temporary measure, giving them a few more seconds to prepare. By the time the mercs had fully turned their weapons to them, the cloud of smoke hid them all. The first thing that they heard was the sound of a mortar firing. A shell flew out of the cloud and struck the underside of the balcony, destroying one of the columns. The floor being directly held by said column collapsed, taking the merc standing there with them with barely a scream. He fell a short distance before landing badly and breaking his neck. A biotic blast flew out of the smoke, dispelling it completely. It grabbed hold of the merc closest to the hole and dragged him out into the air. One shot later, and he was dead. Scratch one, Gurus declared. There they are. One of the two remaining mercs said, pointing his gun at them. But since his attention was focused on them, the Krogan was able to raise his gun and shoot him, the constant bursts of fire tearing through his shields and then his armor. He slumped down dead against the balcony rail. The last merc tried running but got paralyzed by a right-on bullet from Jacob and then got his head shot off by a futon bullet from Naruto. The Krogan lowered his gun and turned to stare at them. He didn't say anything as they approached him with cautious steps. They, on the other hand, kept their guns up as they approached him. Gaki, we don't want an itchy trigger finger, Kurama reminded Naruto. Guys, weapons down, he ordered, lowering his own guns. The others followed his example, some reluctantly. The Krogan looked at them, twisting his head every which way and moving it up and down. It was like he had never seen their like before. You are different, he finally spoke. His voice was strange, thick, like he was still figuring out how to use it. But how could that be? He was a fully grown Krogan. New. You don't smell like this world, 7 night cycles, and I have felt only the need to kill. But you, something makes me speak. Naruto looked at the Krogan, keeping still even as he leaned to sniff. What do you mean by 7 night cycles? He asked as the Krogan pulled away. That is how long I have lived. 7 days, said Miranda in a surprised voice. Oh dear God, he's a clone. Whoa, that's impressive, Ruko remarked as she looked him over. 7 days and he looked like that? She was definitely impressed. They must have been tank bred to full adults so they can kill right away, Zaid noted. He snorted and spat on the ground. Not much better than the mercs if they need training. The Krogan spoke again. Bred to kill. No. I kill because my blood and my bone tell me to. But it's not why I was flushed from Glass Mother. Survival is what I hear in my head. Against the enemy that threaten all my kind. But I failed before even waking. That is what the voice in the water said. That is why I am here. The Glass Mother? Repeated Naruto mentally. It sounded like some kind of statue that was to be worshipped. I don't think it's a statue, Gyuki said. He's right, Isabu agreed. This clone's only been awake for 7 days. I don't think that he even knows what a statue is. It must mean something else. In that case, he might be talking about the laboratory. That would be a good bet. Do you know to get to the laboratory? There's a guy named Ochre that I need to talk to, he said to the Krogan. He seemed to recognize it, somewhat. The Glass Mother. She is up. Past the broken parts. Behind many of you fleshy things. Oh great, now it's talking like the doc, Ruko said with a roll of her eyes. Full title is Doctor, not Doc, Morden told her. Kindly call me such. Whatever, Doc, she fired back, a challenging smirk on her lips. I will show you, the Krogan declared. He walked over to the nearby wall, grabbed a sheet of iron that had been welded to it, and pulled it away with a single grunt of effort. Once it was detached, he threw it to the ground. Damn, Ruko said. Now she was really impressed. Geras looked at the sheet, at the Krogan, and then at the sheet again. Glad he's friendly, he remarked. No fucking kidding, Musashi agreed. You fleshy things are slow when big things are in your way, the Krogan said, making it sound like that explained it all. 7 days alive and he's come to call other people fleshy things. I don't know if I should laugh or not, Matatabi said. You probably shouldn't, Gyuki told her. To him, we might just be big fleshy things. Oh yeah, good point. Naruto had a different question. Why have you stayed here this entire time? He asked the Krogan. I am waiting, he answered. The voice told me. If they come, I fight. But I will not run, and I will not follow. I am not perfect, but I have purpose. I must wait until called. Released, he said simply, turning away and walking back into the center of the room. They all watched him as he left them. Okay, Jacob said. He really didn't know what else to say. We move, Naruto stated, drawing his war hawks once more. What lay beyond what the sheet had covered was a small tunnel, barely tall enough to stand straight up in. Not a lot of room to maneuver, Geras noted as he went into the tunnel. It was so small that they virtually had to walk in a line. He was one of the last. Stay sharp. Thank you for that, Captain, Ruko began to say. Ruko, don't finish that sentence, her brother told her. He's just making sure we all live through this. The tunnel soon took a sloping downward path, making the tunnel feel bigger. When they reached the bottom, they heard someone screaming. They're loose. Run for your damn life. They're all free. That is not good, Eric declared. Everyone, keep an eye out, Naruto ordered. When they came to a corner turning to the right, 2 Blue Suns mercs came running at them at full speed. Get the fuck out of our way! One of them screamed, raising his shotgun. Naruto acted first, using his speed to close the gap while grabbing his guns by the barrels. He used both to knock the mercs' guns out of their hands. He kicked the legs out from under the one on his left with a sweep while driving the hilt of his gun into the stomach of the other, making him double over. With one on the ground and one over him with him in a half-crouch, he flipped the guns again and fired them simultaneously. Shit, you got some moves, Ruko told her brother as the mercs fell down, and he stood back up. Yeah, I taught him everything he knows, Geras said. Don't try lying about it now, Geras, Naruto told him. Come on. When they turned the corner, they stopped again. They saw another fully armored Krogan standing in the way of the path. Fleshy things die. He roared as he started moving towards them. So much for we come in peace, Miranda commented, flaring her biotics and throwing them right at him. It flew right through the air right at the Krogan, but he moved to the side. The biotics charge clipped him in the shoulder, but he still moved towards. Ruko threw her own biotics and got him right in the legs, knocking him down to the ground. I have him, Eric declared, moving forward and pulling out his battle axe. His hands glowed with chakra and the sigils on the axe came alight too. The axe's edge began to hum and crackle. He stood over the Krogan and swung the axe down once, separating the head from the body. Taken care of, he announced. Good work, Eric, Geras told him. He had seen the move before but still, every time the Einherjar did it was impressive. Thank you. Who authorized that Krogan release? Ochre? The woman on the loudspeaker demanded. I will have order in my compound. Sounds like she doesn't have any at all, Miranda commented. Perhaps we can use that to our advantage. We'll have to get there first, Jacob told her. He looked through his scope to see what he could of the room. Looks like there are multiple platforms with pieces of broken things being used as bridges, he told them all, taking his eye off the scope. But there are a lot of Krogan in the way. We go one way and they're going to swarm us. That's assuming they know that tactic, Zaid said. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. How many ways can we go? Naruto asked him. He looked back through the scope. I count 3 paths. Alright, Ruko, Gurus, and Kwan Misley, you're with me. The hunter looked sharply at him. There was a brief moment of confusion in her eyes at his words. But it quickly disappeared and she nodded her confirmation. Oh, this is new, Kurama remarked. Don't read into it, he told the fox. Too late, he said with a grin. So tell us, Gaki, why did you change your mind about her? I didn't. What you just said seems to say something different. He's right, you know, Shikaka added. Did I ask you to join in this conversation? The Kyuubi asked the Ichibi. I'm not talking about this. Leave it be, he ordered both of them. He folded his hands into the hand seal. Kaige Bunshin no Jutsu, he said, creating 2 clones. The 2 of you take the side passes and take some of the others with you, he told both of them. Are we going to take care of the Krogan? The one on his left asked. We're the shield while the others take them down. The one on the right began. No complaining, he said instantly, snapping his head to look at the clone. I'm doing it too. Oh yes, that makes all the difference, the clone replied with all the sarcasm it could muster. Watch it and get moving. But the clone who dared opened his mouth soon started getting hit upside the head with the barrel of the Warhawk. Ow. Ow. Alright. I'm going. Good. The original pulled his gun away from him. Sheesh, damn boss is a slave driver, the other clone muttered to himself. But he didn't mutter quietly enough. What was that? The original asked, whipping his head around and raising the gun again. Nothing, I said nothing. Good. He turned back to look at the rest of the team. Most of them were staring at him like he was a clown off the job. And this is why I don't really like the name Kage no Guntai. We didn't say anything, Gurus told him. I know. Split up and follow the clones. They did just that, each group taking one of the paths. Naruto wasn't sure how the others were doing, keeping his eyes on the path. If a Krogan clone came at them, gun blazing away, he would take the hits and let the others behind him take care of the Krogan. And even though he did not see them, he could hear them. There was an awful lot of swearing coming from his clones, but their armor held. By the time they had reached the other end of the room, having gone through a few clones to get there, Naruto dismissed his own as they regrouped. Commander, I'm getting something, Miranda told him. Hold on, I'm transmitting it to everyone. At first, all he heard was radio static buzzing in his ear. But then it started to make sense. He heard a voice coming through. Ock down the grid. We're blind and getting hit on all sides. Where are the heavies? The voice demanded. Sounds like they're having trouble, Zaid said with a cruel grin. That's good to hear. He always enjoyed it when he heard the Blue Suns were having problems. At the end of the room, they found a flight of stairs going upwards. At the top and around the corner was a locked door. This might take a little time to crack, Miranda remarked as she looked at it. Despite the oldness of the door, the lock was new and modern. If she had to speculate, the Blue Suns put it in. No time for that. We need to keep moving, Naruto told her. Commander, the lock has complete control on the door. It will take some time to break it. I'll break it myself. While she was a little confused by that, Gurus wasn't. He looked back behind to see where the path would go and saw how short it was. I don't think that you'll have enough room to do the dynamic entry, he told him. Frankly, that was a relief to the Turian. Naruto looked back at what he saw and so did the Biju. He's got a point, Matatabi agreed with Gurus. And you promised to never do that again, Kurama added. I made no such promise, their Jinchuriki replied. All right everyone, step back, Ruko said, pushing through the team. That means you too, cheerleader. She stood in front of the door, staring at it with a determined scowl. What are you doing? Miranda asked her, which she ignored. Ruko, I asked you a question, and I told you to do something, so fucking move it already. She grabbed her by the shoulder and shoved her away. Miranda stumbled but regained her balance almost instantaneously, using her hand on the wall to support herself. She stood a little taller and looked back at the blonde woman. There was no need to do that. You weren't moving, cheerleader. Now shut the fuck up so I can concentrate. Her arms began to glow with her biotics. That's not going to work. The door is going to be too thick to move with your biotics. Shut up, cheerleader, she growled at Miranda, still keeping her gaze on the door. I'm trying to concentrate here. Her biotics kept glowing and even started glowing brighter. Yeah! She screamed once she was happy with the level of brightness the biotics were glowing at, throwing a 1-2 combo at the door. The first punch buckled the door, the second blew it right out. It flew back into the next room and hit the wall with a loud crash. Whoa, Zaid said, staring at the door. And that's how you fucking do it, Ruko said with a slightly strained, panting voice. Anyone got any questions? No we don't, Gurus said. Most impressive. Possible growth of strength due to uniqueness of biotic origins. Unknown factors must play part. Morden began to mutter to himself. Doctor, we just said we didn't have any questions, the Turian told the Solarian. The way he figured it, it was best not to piss off the biotic that could tear doors off with a big shove by asking her annoying questions. Have not started asking questions, he replied. Then don't. We move, Naruto declared, already through the door. They all followed him and Ruko found herself in the back, feeling really sore. It wasn't even the good kind of sore that she got from a good fuck. This was just plain old sore. But she could still hold her gun and still move. Are you okay? Miranda asked her, falling beside her. They were going another flight of stairs. I'm fine, she snapped. Are you sure? Why the fuck do you care? I am making sure that everyone on the team is fully functional and at their best, she replied promptly and primly. Of course you are, Naruto's sister said with sarcasm mixed in with loathing. You just see everyone as a thing that needs to be worked and ensured that it's working at full strength, aren't you? I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Krogan on R6. The radio suddenly screamed into life. Copy, god damn it. Where's Jedor and her personal guard? Sounds like things aren't going smoothly for them, Musashi remarked as the chatter died away again. They reached the top of the stairs and found an empty room that looked like half of it had been torn away, which was most likely the case. Good for us, Zaid declared. There was a door on the other side of the room and when they got to it, it opened up to reveal a blue sun merc standing right there. What the? He started to ask, only to get his head lopped off courtesy of Eric. He's good, Sun declared as they all watched the head sail through the air, blood leaking through the lopped part. That was a smooth swing and he didn't have to do it twice. Once the body had landed, they all got a clear look at the place. They saw that they were outside again and on a terrace connected to another by a bridge. Unfortunately, it alerted the other mercs in the area. The closest all but shouted a curse as she turned and raised her gun to shoot them. But Musashi was there first and beat her down with his bakken. Gurus and Jacob already their rifles up and pointed at the mercs as everyone went for cover right up against the barricaded rail. Grenade! Shouted Zaid. They all dove away from the incoming grenade, except for Eric. He stood tall and waited for the thing to come close, holding his axe sideways. Once he felt it was close enough, he swung it right at the other side. It flew right back and exploded on the other side, killing the two mercs there. Damn, he's really good, Sun said as the smoke cleared. Did you guys see that swing of his? Yes, we saw it, Matatabi said back. That was awesome. Naruto, if I ever come out of you, I want to go into him next. Sure you do, Naruto silently replied. He was sure that it was a spur of the moment saying, no, I'm serious. I want to go in him. Could you make that sound any dirtier? Kurama asked with a smirk on his lips. Don't encourage him, Koko said with a roll of his eyes. Koko, make sure Sun is sane and not in love the next time we talk, their Jinchuriki ordered, figuring that since they had both come from IWA when he got them, they knew each other the best. Are there any more? He asked aloud, looking at his team. Here, not likely, Morden answered. Up ahead, most likely. That is a given, Miranda told him. We must be careful. No shit, cheerleader, Ruko said to her. Are you done talking about the obvious? Could you two perhaps save your foreplay for when we're not in danger? Gurus asked them with a light and suggestive tone. It was clear that he was trying to lighten the mood they were in right now. It didn't work. In fact, it got him their guns pointing at his face. You wanna die? Ruko asked him in a growl. He opened his mouth once more, only for Naruto to speak. Gurus, don't try the priest joke. That's only funny when it's you and Rex. Leave them and their foreplay alone. He moved up the walkway before they could turn their guns on him, or say something in reply. The rest of the team ignored the whole thing and followed him. The walkway kept them to one side and led them back into the building they had left, just a little further down than before. There were mercs in the room they walked into, a long one with a door on the other end and off to the left. It's them, one of the mercs, a woman from the sound of her voice. Open fire, how about you go flying, bitch? Ruko asked, her arm flaring red before she threw the biotics right her. She went flying through the air and landed against the back wall with a sickening crunch. Nice shot, Zay told her as he sprayed fire to keep the other mercs from staying together. Thank you? But as she lowered her arm, it started to feel really sore. Gah, I probably shouldn't do that more for now. It was a blow to her ego to admit that, but she still had a pistol to use. Jedor does not pay for failures. The woman on the loudspeaker spoke again. Do your jobs, I want them dead. She just does not stop talking, Eric said in annoyance as he held his place behind cover. Ignore her, Jacob told him, kneeling beside him and using his rifle to fire back at the mercs. If you pay attention to her, it fuels her to keep going. But she cannot even hear us. I don't think it matters. It does not. More pressing concern, Morden said as he fired his shotgun at the merc on the left, clipping him in the shoulder. Reinforcements are coming through the door. 3 more mercs appeared as he spoke. Oh, this is just fucking great, Ruko groused. There were more enemies and she had to rely on her pistol. Not exactly her idea of a good time. Do not worry, we will handle it, Eric said, already taking off his mortar. Kwan Misley, do you have a napalm one? He called out to the hunter. She was by a column, taking shots with her heavy pistol. I will in a few seconds, she replied, already dropping behind the column and holstering her pistol. She took a knee and shrugged her pack, her hands opening and digging through it. You heard the lady, Gurus told the group. Give her those seconds. Thank you for that, we did not need it, Zay told him back. He kept making the mercs dance and dance, keeping them away from each other. There's also no reason to keep them alive, Miranda remarked as she stepped out of cover and shot at the merc on the farthest left, getting her right in the middle of the head. But then there would be no reason to have her help me, Eric told her. I'm done, Kwan Misley announced, holding her creation in her hand. Eric, catch, she tossed it at him. He caught it and then slid down into the tube of his mortar. Fire 1! The mortar fired the creation right at the mercs, striking the ground between them all and engulfing them in a cloud. If you've got cat-on clips, use them, the hunter ordered. Jacob switched out his clip the second she was finished and fired a shot into the cloud. It exploded. The remaining mercs were caught in the middle of a blazing firestorm and all they could do was scream as they burned to a crisp. The team waited and watched as the screams quickly died away and they saw bodies dropping down to the ground. Once all the mercs were dead on the ground, the firestorm evaporated. The whole thing took 10 seconds. I am becoming more and more impressed with your skills, Eric told Kwan Misley as he stood up and put the mortar away. Thank you, she replied simply. Concrete on the Krogan charge or we'll all dead. The radio chatter came alive with a new merc voice. Who was the genius who gave them arms? Anyone care to make a guess? Zayd asked the team. No, we don't, Miranda told him. We have to keep moving. Hey, I'd say we all have a voice in this, cheerleader, Ruko told her. I, for one, would like to take a guess. And yet, she wouldn't have if Miranda hadn't opened her mouth, Shikaka remarked in a faux-wise voice. Yes, she would have kept quiet and left Zayd's question alone, Isabu agreed, nodding his head. Naruto left them to their discussion. Let's go, he said to the team. As they moved up to the door, Gurus went a little extra further to make sure that no one was hiding at the corner they were ignoring. He didn't find anyone, but he did find something else. Hey Naruto, I found a PDA on the ground, he announced. If you want to see if it has anything important, be my guest, the blonde told him. But I'm not waiting on you. The door was already open. Luckily for the Turian, whoever had owned the PDA either didn't have good tech skills or just didn't care. He was able to get through in a matter of seconds. But there wasn't anything in the PDA worth mentioning, except for a healthy bank account. Well, it's not like he's going to need it now, he thought to himself before turning around and following the others through the door. The next room was a strange one, being half closed and half open to the outside world. The staircase that went upwards hung in the air. If one of them took the wrong step, they would be in for a very long and terrifying fall. Don't say it, Kurama told Naruto. I wasn't going to, he replied as he ascended the stairs, keeping his war hawks pointing upwards as he went and turned. But someone will. That is a long way down, Musashi remarked, glancing down once and then looking right up again. You will be fine, Miranda told him, so long as you don't look down. See? I told you. He didn't have to turn around to know that everyone had looked down. Miranda, saying stuff like that is going to make them do it. I would have thought you know that. Are you chastising me, sir? She asked him. There was a hint of challenge in her voice. Anyone else might have obliged that challenge, but he didn't. No, just letting you know. At the top of the stairs, they saw 2 ways into the same area, with one of them being going over a short barricade. No matter which way they turned, they were going to be facing Blue Sun's mercs. Well, this is going to be a problem, Jacob remarked. They were all standing with their back to the wall opposite of the area. There was only enough room for some of them, and the rest tried to stay relatively out of sight. No, it's not, Naruto told him, putting his guns away. Commander, they're waiting for to step out with gun they have pointing right us. I know. Then what's the plan? It's a two-man plan and it depends on you. Me? He actually sounded surprised. Yes, you, Naruto replied. Are you a chakra user? Yes, sir. Commander, I am also a chakra user, Eric reminded him. Same here, Musashi added in. He was certain that they had shown that already. I know you guys are. Now I want to see if he is too. He turned his attention back to Jacob. Do you know any futon jutsu? Some, but they're not really my area. No, I'm betting that's right, he said, half to him and half to himself. Jacob stared at the armored blonde. How could he have known that? Sir, how could you have known that? He asked. Lucky guess, Naruto replied, waving it off. Liar, Gyuki said to him. He knew exactly why Jacob had right-on jutsu capability. So? He asked back. Do you know the Daitapa no Jutsu? He asked Jacob. Yes, I do. That was one of the few futon jutsu he could use. It made him feel relieved that he did. Alright, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to take one door and you're going to take the other. We'll use that jutsu to blow them all back and off their feet. The rest of you move in and mop up, he addressed the rest of the team. Oh goody, we get the easy job, Ruko muttered. I hardly call mopping up easy, Miranda said sharply to her. Save it for the enemy, Naruto told them before they could get going. He wanted the fight out past that wall, not right here. Jacob, on 3, he told him, his hands going through the hand seals. 1, 2, 3. They stepped out into the open and clapped their hands together in the final seal. Futon de Tapa. The huge gusts of wind slammed into the mercs and sent them crashing into the ground before they could get a shot off. Some even fell off the building into the sky below, screaming all the way down until they couldn't be heard anymore. When the gusts died, the rest of the team moved in and started shooting, or in the case of Eric and Musashi, cutting and bashing. Like I said, the easy job, Ruko said again as she shot a Batarian merc right between the eyes. Miranda did not bother to reply, choosing to send the merc she was looking up into the air and then out into the sky with a biotic grab and throw. I paid for competence. The woman on the loudspeaker screamed, her voice getting rather shrill. Kill the trespassers. I will deal the traitorous Ochre. How nice, the bitch finally recognizes that we're here, Zaid said as he casually put a bullet in a merc's head. That might not be a good thing, Eric said back. If she has noticed us, then they will turn their attention to us. They're doing that already. Or have you not been paying attention to the dead bodies of Blue Sun's mercs we've been making? Forgive me, I misspoke. I was talking about their entire attention, not just this half-focused kind. The disgraced Einherjar knew that there was a difference, and sometimes a battle was made by that difference, but Zaid was nonplussed. We'll shoot through that focus too. Zaid, our goal is Ochre, not the Blue Suns, Naruto said as he walked into the room alongside Jacob, rejoining everyone again. I know that. Are you sure? This is not the time for you to go Blue Suns hunting. I'm aware. There was a bite to his voice. The blonde ignored it. Good. He looked at Jacob. Nice aim. Thank you, Commander. But if you don't mind, I'd rather stick to my guns, he replied. Don't bet on it. They moved forward, past the dead bodies. At the far end of the area was a bridge on the left going to another building. It hung out in the open air but looked fairly stable as a bridge could be on this planet. Think anyone's going to say it? Chome asked as they started across the bridge. Probably not, Naruto replied. They've already gone through it once. The radio chatter came alive once more. Berserkers are going down, but the outside commandos are still incoming. Repeat, still incoming. A merc shouted into it. How nice, they finally realized that we're here, Gurus remarked. Not nice. Most likely will turn attention to us now, Morden remarked. Must be cautious now and moving forward. We weren't already doing that? Musashi asked. Much more cautious, he amended. They didn't encounter anyone on the bridge, which some of them considered a blessing. But when they got to the other side and went in, there was a single merc waiting for them. You shall not pass, he declared, holding the biggest gun any of them had seen. What the? Gurus said, lowering his rifle slightly. Everyone else was just staring at the merc. You shall not pass me. Is this kid for real? Zaid asked aloud, not getting a reply. Unlike Gurus, he completely lowered his gun, uncaring about the whole thing. Posture stable, tone of voice confident. He is serious, Morden said, looking over the merc. Never seen weapon before. Does not look like any modern professional job. Cobbled together from local scrap. It could be, Jacob agreed. It looked like it was made to be either a cannon or a heavy machine gun, probably somewhere in between. Does it matter? Eric asked. He is an enemy in our way. We remove our enemies. He took a step towards the merc, but the merc raised the gun at him. I said that you shall not pass me. Do you know why? Please enlighten us, Musashi said with more than a hint of sarcasm. Because this gun is the beginning of a new age in weaponry, he declared. Once shot from this, and I will be able to wipe you all out. Really? Asked Gurus, unable to keep the sarcasm out of his voice either. This entire situation was becoming just a little too ridiculous. If he wasn't a professional, he might have started sniggering or outright laugh. Yes. That is why you shall not pass. Ruko, break his legs, Naruto ordered, cutting him off. Her arm still felt sore, but it wasn't like Ruko was going to pass up an opportunity to do some damage. You got it, she told her brother. She decided to go with one leg at a time so she could enjoy it. Her arm flared red. She reached out and grabbed his left leg with her biotics, snapping the bone in half. When she reached for the right, her soreness started up again. It made her stop for a moment, but she could keep going. The merc's right leg broke and he went down screaming. She looked at the merc and then at Miranda. I had him, she told the cheerleader with more irritation in her voice than anger. Of course you did, Miranda replied over the screaming merc. He couldn't get up on account of his legs and the fact that his new age weapon was pinning him to the floor. He's down, Naruto told them both before they could start. Let's just move. They all walked past the screaming merc, ignoring him. When they reached the turn to the left beyond him, the sound of a single gunshot echoed and the screaming went silent. Naruto turned back to see what had happened and saw Morden standing over him. Never smart to leave behind injured opponent, the Solarian said. Could come back to shoot you. Always best to take care of them. Fair enough, he replied, seeing the logic. The turn led them out into the open again, the world looming down below. Up ahead turned into a bridge leading over to the next portion of the area. They found more mercs in their way and didn't hesitate to start shooting their way through, or in the case of Musashi, Eric, and Naruto, bashing or hacking their way through. I need everyone out of the labs to fight this. The radio operator all but screamed. Every floor, every outpost. Move, how nice, you're finally getting the attention that you deserve, Kurama observed drily. Yes, I was wondering when they were going to get that, Naruto replied while he shot one merc in the head and brained another to death with the other gun. They were on the bridge when the loudspeaker went on again, and they heard the woman's voice once more. No more. I command that they be killed. What is so hard to understand? We ain't that easy to kill, bitch, Ruko said as she rushed one of the mercs and fired at point-blank range, taking his head right off. You do realize that she cannot hear you, yes? Eric asked her. Don't ruin my fun. She told him. Very well, he said in surrender. What do you mean Jidora's holding the mechs? The radio operator demanded. She'll lose all her toys and we don't get backup. I think that they're having trouble, Gurus told Naruto conversationally as they finally crossed the bridge. The room they walked into had a couple of tables pushed off to the side. It might have been the break room of the ship, either before it had been broken or before this entire fiasco. But that wasn't something to be concerned about for them. Let's just hope that it gets worse before it gets better, he replied. Concentrate fire on my position. A new voice on the radio ordered. Concentrate on, ARG. The radio went dead with a gunshot and a burst of static. I think they heard you, Gurus remarked as they went through the nearby door. Oh goody, more stairs, Ruko grumbled as she took in the flight of stairs and the world beyond in the openness. Why can't we just take the elevator for once? 1. Do you really think that there's an elevator here that'll fit all of us in it? Miranda asked her rhetorically. 2. Do you really think that there's an elevator here that actually works? Alright, I get it. She glared at the brunette. You don't have to fucking rub it in. I am just making sure that you are aware of it, she said. Hey, what the fuck did I just say? Are you going deaf? She chose not to answer, leaving the blonde biotic to stifle her upcoming barrage of insults, and just growl instead. The team reached the top of the stairs and went for the door. Jedor spoke on the loudspeaker again. There are 10 of them. 10. How hard is it for an army to kill 10 people? Anything can be killed if you do your damn jobs. Will someone shut that incompetent, overbearing bitch of a woman up already? Someone on the radio demanded. I guess she is not universally loved, Eric said. I think that we can use that to our advantage. How? Asked Gurus. I am not sure. He looked at his friend flatly. Helpful, Eric, really helpful. Do you mind turning your attention back to what's in front of you? Zaid asked the both of them. They were past the door and were going up a slight slope instead of stairs. Blue suns lined up both sides of the slope with guns pointing right at them. People, if you have any wish to live, you walk right past us, Naruto announced, catching both his team and the mercs off guard. We've pretty much killed everyone who was in our way up till now, so the path out is open. If you want to run, go ahead and get moving. If you want to die, then stay where you are. No one on the team said a word. They weren't sure if he said what he meant, or if he was lying. They had thought he would have let the earlier merc go, and yet he told Gurus to shoot him. What was certain about the blonde to those who knew him wasn't so certain anymore. To those who didn't know him, it was a harsh reminder that he was a dangerous man from a very dangerous era. The mercs were wondering that too. They were just doing their wondering audibly and not even quietly either. Do you think he means it? I don't know. We still have to deal with the fucking Krogan, remember? We still have to deal with Jedor too. Fuck that bitch. What has she done except scream into a microphone? She's the boss here. We leave. We're going to have to explain to the higher-ups. And that just means either we'll get a bullet to the front or the back. I don't know about you, but I'd be willing to take my chances on that. Say that after you're in front of the firing squad. What is taking so long? Jedor demanded on the loudspeaker. If you have them in your sights, kill them. Shut up. They all shouted together at the nearest loudspeaker. Fuck it. I'm out of here. Same here. I ain't putting up with that bitch anymore. About 3/4 of the mercs who faced the team dropped their weapons and came walking down the slope. The team kept their fingers close to the triggers, but nothing happened. The mercs just walked right past them. The remaining quarter just stood there, looking a little unsure about everything that was happening right in front of them. I think they need a little push, Gaki, Kurama told Naruto. I'll say it again, the armored blonde told the remaining quarter. You walk, you live. You stay, you die. Go fuck yourself, one of the remaining mercs told him. If you think that we'd be willing to, Miranda, pop him up. Her arm flared blue as she grabbed hold of the merc and threw him up into the air. Naruto drew up the warhawks and started shooting. The merc spun around and around in the air by the bullets. His shielding held for barely 10 seconds under the barrage, and then they broke. By the time Naruto was done, and he had fallen back down to the ground, his body was riddled with bullet holes. Any questions? Asked Naruto, leveling his guns at the rest of them. They didn't answer him, but they didn't raise their guns at the team either. He took that as a good thing. Feel free to start walking away now. They took the hint and quickly left, all running past him and the others to get out. For a few seconds, everyone just listened to the sound of their feet hitting the floor hard in their running. Why did you do that? Gurus asked the armored blonde when they were all gone. We could have easily killed them all. I know, but this is easier. Besides, they still have to deal with the Krogan out there. He was certain that there were more clones out and about to get them. Should have killed them, Zaid muttered. Less of a pain this way and less chance of injuries too. That was always good to have. Still should have killed them. Morden nodded in agreement. They walked up the slope and into the room, if it could be called that without a complete floor or walls. It turned out to be a big area that could easily hold a lot of mercs, and yet Naruto had managed to get them all to leave. Squad 4? Report. Damn it. Have to do everything myself, Jedor said over the loudspeaker. Like what? Ruko asked aloud. You've just talking through a loudspeaker the entire fucking time. What the fuck can you do? Do you really want to find out? Miranda asked her. You'd be surprised at what people can do. You don't think I don't know that? How fucking thick are you, cheerleader? She asked, challenging. But the cheerleader didn't rise to the insult, leaving her to fume. I think that Miranda has found the way to pull the rug out from under Ruko's feet, Yuki remarked. She just doesn't have to reply. You know what their relationship looks like to me, Kurama said. What? Naruto asked as he walked up a set of stairs, trying to get through the area. There was no straight way to get through, which would have been a pain in the ass if they had fought their way through. Actually, it still was a pain in the ass. You and Sasuke, he answered. If it had been his younger self who heard those words, he might have stumbled down the steps and gotten right back to deny everything. Instead, he just groaned inwardly. I had to ask. Come on, Gaki. If one of you had been a girl, you would have been fucking each other more than fighting. And if people hadn't seen you go after Sakura, they would have thought you had a crush on him. I didn't. Sasuke had just been his friend. That was it. There was nothing else about it. You and I both know that. But you can't deny what it looked like to others. Watch me. He would deny it to his dying day. The walk they took led them to a door on the far side of the area. Everyone had their guns out and ready. But when they went through, they didn't find any mercs waiting for them. Instead, they just found one Asari in a scientist's uniform. Wait, don't shoot. she said instantly, throwing her hands up. That's no fun, Ruko groused. The Asari kept looking at all of them, her eyes wide with fear and panic. Please don't shoot me. I'm not with the Blue Suns. I'm just someone that they hired. My name is Ranathanoptis, I'm a scientist. We've met her, Saiken said in realization. Naruto remembered. You were on Vermeer while Saren was there, he said. She flinched at those words and then looked at him. How did Commander Uzumaki? She asked, stopping her first question and ending with another. Yes, she breathed a sigh of relief. Thank the goddess for that. I'm glad I turned off the security cameras when I did. Never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad it's you shooting up the place. Did you get off Vermeer? Saren's lab was destroyed. I know. I had to outrun that nuke in a utility pod. It was a close call, but I was able to get out, and now you're here. He looked all around the room they were as he spoke. It was smaller than the rest of the place. But it was also a lab. He could see the equipment all around him that told him it was a lab, and the dead Krogan on the table made it obvious. Don't worry, I'm not wasting the chance you gave me, she quickly assured him. My work here, strictly beneficial. You're right, Ruko said with a snort. That's why you're surrounded by Blue Sun's mercs. I'm not here for the mercs, she insisted. That may be a bit hard to swallow, Gers remarked, his voice showing his disbelief at her. I'm not here for the mercs, Rana repeated. Jador's on a standard power trip. Once you tune her out, it's easier to ignore her. But Ochre is trying to do something good, I can tell. Even if his methods are a little extreme, she finished weakly, looking at one of the dead bodies that lay on the ground close to her. Right, of course he is, Musashi said deadpan. She looked at him. Everyone deserves a second chance. Right. She asked him, and sometimes giving pays off. I take care of my debts. And yet you are here, Naruto told her. Don't worry. I plan on staying as far away from anything that has to do with you as possible. Now if you don't mind, I'm going to run like hell before you blow the place or something. I know how you work. I'll take that as a compliment. She walked past them all, heading for the door they came through. To her credit, she didn't bolt until she was out the door. Ruko looked at her brother. Too nice, she declared. That'll bite you in the ass someday. Ruko, do you have any idea how many times my ass has been bitten? He asked her. She would have said something sarcastic or snarky for a reply. But she suddenly got a flash of emotions. She could feel anger, irritation, surprise, and despair. No, she finally said once the emotions disappeared. She was really beginning to hate those flashes. Then trust me when I say it's not how many times the ass is bitten, it's the degree of the bite you need to be concerned about. That, he pointed at the door the Asari had left through, was a nibble at best. How about we keep moving and not worry about asses being bitten? Gurus suggested. We must be close to Ochre if we're coming across the labs now. As it turned out, they were right next door to the Krogan. When they walked through the door in front of them, they entered a long room with a giant window dominating the right side of it. Close to the door was a giant container filled with liquid with a computer beside it. Inside the tube was a Krogan, but it was the Krogan standing beside the tube looking out through the glass that had their attention. They walked forward, keeping their weapons focused on him. They made no attempt to be silent as they walked, and the collective sound of their feet hitting the ground made him turn around to look at them. His eyes found Naruto first. It's about time, he said without preamble. The batteries on these tanks will not wait while you play with these idiotic mercs. You are Ochre, Naruto said. And you are Naruto Uzumaki, he replied. The armored blonde was a little surprised by that statement, even though he didn't show it in any way. How does he know that? He asked himself. Maybe he's someone you met? Isabu offered. I think we would have remembered meeting him, Chomei replied. Are you sure about that? The Krogan looked at the armored blonde with something akin to amusement in his eyes. Surprised? He asked. Apparently, he wasn't expecting an answer. He just kept on talking. All Krogan should know you. I'm sure Rana has revisited your actions on Vermeer. A little bit before she bolted, he admitted. But I'm guessing that you want to talk about it too. Indeed I do. It is quite the tale. Saren, the Spectre traitor, threatens the return of the Krogan horde by curing the genophage, undoing the gentle genocide of the Turians and Solarians. His eyes flickered to Gurus and Mordin for a moment. Then he turned away and continued. But before Saren could deliver his endless troops, in storms Naruto Uzumaki, securing victory through nuclear fire. I like that part. It has weight. If you're trying to see if I feel guilty about what I did, I'm not, Naruto told him. I made my choices. I am not doing such a thing. In fact, I approve of your actions. Saren's pale horde were not true Krogan. Numbers alone are nothing. The mistake of an outsider, one that these mercenaries have also made, he stated before turning to look through the giant window. I gave their leader my rejects for her army. But she grows impatient. It's time for you to take me out of here. No, it's not. We're here to talk to you, Miranda told him. He snorted quite audibly. You are already doing that. A lesser person might have gotten annoyed with him, but she kept her cool. We are here to talk to you about your past relationship with the tribe of Athame. I do not have a relationship with them, past or otherwise. His back was still turned to them. We have intel that suggests that you went to the tribe at one point, and while you were there, you took a sample of chakra that they had managed to gain. Is this true? He ignored her. How long must we keep playing this little game of yours, Commander? He asked Naruto. What do you mean? He asked back. I see what you meant now. A strange rumble emanated from his body. It took the team a few seconds to realize that he was chuckling. I guess being stuck in a rock for 2,000 years would finally do something to your mind. What the fuck are you on about? Ruko demanded, only to receive silence for an answer. Hey, I'm talking to you. Still only silence. She raised her arm to flare out her biotics, only to stop when her brother turned his head slightly to look at her. She couldn't see his face, but she got the impression that he was telling to shut up or he would make her. Naruto looked back at the old Krogan. What are you talking about? He asked. Ochre finally turned around and looked at him. You contacted me a few hours ago and told me to prepare to leave. Why would I do that? It is truly amazing how much you do not know about yourself. He sounded quite amused at the idea. He frowned behind the helmet. Give me a straight answer. But the old Krogan turned away from him and went to the tube, staring at the Krogan inside. When they were close enough, the differences between the two all but shouted itself to the team. Ochre showed his age in how he moved, spoke, walked, and most of all, looked. His bulk was big and his crest was too. There were scars on his body, but they were barely recognizable in the wrong light. If he was a human, he would have looked like an old grizzled man, but the Krogan in the tank wasn't old. He was young. His crest was still forming, and he had no bulk to carry. His scaling wasn't dark brown or red. It was a light gray that looked shiny in the liquid holding him. Do you like what you see? Ochre asked. With what you gave me, I acquired the knowledge to create one pure soldier. With that, I will inflict upon the genophage the greatest insult an enemy can suffer. To be ignored. And also, I will return my people to what they were meant to be. You know, I'm beginning to think that this Krogan has a few screws loose, Shikaku remarked. A few? Asked Saiken. Attention. Jidor's voice spoke over the loudspeaker once more. Oh, for fuck's sake, not this again. Ruko groused aloud. I have traced the Krogan's release. Ochre, of course. I'm calling blank slate on this project. Gas these commandos and start over from Ochre's data. Flush the tanks. The sound of multiple pipes opening in unison filled the room. Everyone spun around, raising their weapons, seeing the gas hissing out from the pipes in the room. Ochre ran over to the window and looked down to the room. That bitch! He growled when he saw Jedor down there. She's that weak-willed? She'll kill my legacy with a damn valve. He turned back to look at them all. Uzumaki, you want to know what I am talking about? Stop her. She'll try to access containments in the storage bay. Why is this a problem? Naruto asked him. He looked at the tank again. I've come too far to start over now. The Krogan in this tank is pure. It must survive. He looked back at the armored blonde. Jedor will be with the rejected tanks. Kill her. I will stay and do what must be done. He sounded resigned to it. Morin, try and help him. No! He roared before the Solarian could have stepped forward. This is my legacy. I will not have some lizard bastard try to kill it before it can even be born. Okay. Morden, never mind, he said. The Solarian doctor hadn't moved an inch yet. The old Krogan grunted and turned to the tank. Kill Jedor, Uzumaki. I do what I must to save my legacy. You'll find the storage bay past that down. He pointed to the door at the far end of the room. We move, people. He headed for the door, and his team followed. Beyond the door lay a flight of stairs that went down instead of up this time. Commander, this isn't what we came here to do, Miranda told Naruto as they went down the steps. We came here to question Ochre, not help save his project. If we do this, we'll get him to talk, he replied. This is not in the interest of the Akatsuki. You're right, it's not. It's mine. If he had contacted Ochre before the ship got here and didn't remember it, it must mean the Krogan had some kind of encounter with him before the tribe had gotten a hold of him. He had to get Ochre to talk and find out what the hell happened to him. Sir, we're helping him, Miranda. There's use no arguing about it, he told her, his voice telling her that he would have no argument about it. She looked like she wanted to say something, but she didn't. When they reached the bottom of the stairs, there was a door there. They could hear Jador's voice coming from the other side, screaming like usual. I don't care who they are, I want them dead. This is my world. I'll poison them all. Well, at least her priorities are in order, Gurus commented as they approached the door. I do not think that this is the time for humor, Gurus, Eric told him. He's right, Ruko said in agreement. Let's kill this bitch. The door opened and they walked into the room that they had seen above. Jedor was standing on the far side of the room. She was standing next to a tank and her armor had additional tech armor gleaming over it. 2 heavy mechs stood close to her. There were more than one tank in that room and each tank had a Krogan clone inside them. Good, you're here, she shouted to them from across the room. You've come here to die. No, we have not, Eric replied. Oh yes, you have. She slammed her fist down on a button. The tank opened and a Krogan stepped out, roaring for blood. Kill the fire one! The mortar roared as it fired. The shell flew through the air and smashed into the Krogan, destroying it and the tank too. Jedor had seen it coming and threw herself behind a crate to avoid the blast. When it was gone, she popped her head back out. You fucking Eric, take out the tanks, Naruto ordered over her ranting, turning her out. Kwan, Misli and Zaid, assist. Miranda, Ruko, and Musashi, start breaking the mechs. Jacob, Gurus, and Morden, keep her occupied. What are you going to do? Gurus asked him, tuning out her ranting as well. Take care of her. They broke apart, and went to business. Eric attacked the far tanks with the mortar while Kwan Misli rigged explosives for the near. Zaid provided covering for them both, staying between them as he fired at the mechs and Jedor. Ruko's group went right for the mechs, the biotics flaring their power while Musashi strengthened his Bakken. He got in close and bashed their legs with such strength that they fell to the ground. Then they were lifted up and crushed together by Ruko and Miranda. While all this was happening, Jedor was trying to shoot them all dead. I'll kill you all! She screamed as she tried shooting them. The reason why it was try and not do was because whenever she tried to come out of cover and shoot, Jacob, Gurus, and Morden would shoot her down back into cover. But that didn't stop her from screaming at them all. You're dead. You hear me? You're all fucking dead. I don't care how many you kill. I can always make more. This is my world, I rule here. No one else. Ochre worked at my whim. These clones are mine. No one else commands them. She had been screaming, popping in and out of cover, and trying to shoot 9 members of the team. She had forgotten about the 10th. Naruto had moved silently and carefully towards her, going the long way around. When he was close enough, he attacked. The first thing that he did was kick the gun out of her hands. The second was to reach out, pry her mouth open with one hand and then cut out her tongue with a kunai. Finally, she stops talking. Kurama said joyfully as his Jinchuriki threw away the tongue in. Naruto watched silently as she fell to the ground, screaming incoherently and muffled due to her tongue loss, with blood pouring out of her mouth. She thrashed around, kicking everything that she could reach, including him. He let her kick him. They were weak and didn't hurt him. He just stood there and watched her. After a long minute, he finally looked up. All the tanks destroyed? He called out. My targets are destroyed, Eric told him. The same, Kwan Misli answered. Good. With a quick, practiced motion, he reached down and slit Jador's throat. The blood poured out even more, but it didn't matter. She was dead. Zaid walked over to him and looked down at the dead body. Kinda wished you kept her alive after cutting off her tongue, he said. Why? She was of no use to us. Oh, I would have found a use for her. There was an evil smirk on his lips as he spoke. One look at that smirk and Naruto knew instantly what his intentions would have been. I have no problems with you being a merc, Zaid. I have no problems with you wanting to kill every blue suns you find. I do have a problem if you're going to be a rapist too. He barked out a short laugh. This is coming from the student of Jiraiya? The armored blonde turned to look at him, and his laughter died in his throat. He felt a chill crawl up his body at the sight of the snarling fox. Zaid was a hardened merc. He had been through a lot of things, not a lot of them good or easy. He was a veteran of many battles and he could trust his gut to lead him in the right direction. And now, that gut was telling him to shut up or die brutally at the man's hands. He was never a rapist, Naruto finally told him. Jiraiya had been many things. He had been a super pervert. He had spied on women in the baths. But he was never a rapist. He hated rapists. Suddenly, they all heard the wailing klaxon of alarms coming up from the lab. What is that Krogan up to? Gurus demanded. EDI had the answer for them. Commander, the lab alarms coincided with the system's failure. She told Naruto through the comm the remaining lab systems are unprotected, and I have gained limited access. Everyone, back upstairs, now! He shouted to the team, rushing for the door and leaving the dead body of the very annoying woman behind. The rest of the team followed him through the door and then up the stairs. Contamination detected. Emergency vent in progress, a steady woman's voice announced the loudspeaker. It began to repeat itself, and that clued them in that it was a machine doing the announcing. Of course, it was a trivial thing to them. They were more concerned with getting back to Ochre, but when they reached the door and went through it, they found that the gas in the room had stopped and the Krogan was dead on the ground. Kami, take it. Naruto swore at the sight of Ochre. Well, this is a problem for you, Kurama remarked. Thank you for stating the obvious there, furball, he replied, angrily sarcastic. He might have known what the hell happened to me before the tribe had gotten hold of me. Now he's dead and I still don't know. Gaki, have you tried looking around first? He might have been smart enough to leave you a message. Like what? Writing something on the wall with his blood. Somehow, despite him being a Krogan, he wasn't that crude. He could have just left you a video message. He looked up from the body of Ochre and saw the computer there right next to the tube. Of course, I'm an idiot. Well, not now. He raced over to the computer and looked at it hard. There was a little blinking symbol that told him there was a video message waiting to be opened. He clicked it open, revealing Ochre standing at the screen. The time-stamp showed it was in the minutes they were downstairs. He didn't look good, and it also showed in how he talked. Uzumaki, I'm going to be dead when you watch this. But you gave me enough time to protect my legacy. He started coughing for a few seconds and then continued. Everything I have done now resides with him. This, one soldier, this grunt, he said before hacking out blood, and it is because of you that I have been able to accomplish this. You want to know what happened between us? I came to the tribe and took a sample of your chakra as it was willingly offered a year before. You offered your chakra for a sample and I took it. He almost fell to the ground but held himself up with the strength of his arms. But it was fading fast. I could not complete the process I have started, but I've laid the groundwork. You'll have to see it to the end. You have to. You told me yourself, humanity weren't the only ones who could wield chakra. The Krogan could too, once. You must bring it back, he finished with grasping breaths. That was the last thing he said before he fell out of sight and the video stopped. Naruto could tell that the others were watching the video too, but he didn't care about that. He turned his attention to the tank and the Krogan inside of it. I helped him do this, he asked himself. It didn't make sense. Then again, neither did contacting him to get ready to leave and then forget about. What the hell was going on with him? Codex entry, Humanity and the System Alliance Chakra Steel. The Elemental Nations has had a long history with the alloy known to many species as steel, one rivaling that of the Frontier and Midgard. But it is both the Elemental Nations and Midgard who have the longest history of imbuing metals with chakra. In those days, basic jutsu such as the Samurai Saber technique and the legendary Saratobi Asuma's Hien Jutsu were the most easily recognizable techniques that applied chakra into metals short of using runes and Fuinjutsu. Eventually, with the discovery of the chakra conductive properties found in the semiconductor known as magium, a collaboration between Midgard and the Elemental Nations smiths, priests, chemists, and metallurgists have created a material that is extremely versatile and used in human weapons even today. A combination of iron, carbon, tungsten, chromium, a varying amount of pure magium salt, and other trace elements made the blood-crystallizing poison known as the silencer, due to how the victims die painfully, slowly, and while looking like they are silently screaming before dying. However, when the materials are smelted together, the resulting steel loses its poisonous touch but retains chakra conductivity of the magium salt. Chakra steel is an alloy made by various Systems Alliance companies, each with their own proprietary ingredients and methods for the composition of the steel. However, on average all chakra steel has the following qualities: chakra conductivity, being recyclable, high strength, and high density. This makes it ideal for melee weapons and personnel armor, although the steel is also used in the manufacture of firearms to allow humans to imbue chakra into their ammunition. However, chakra steel's density makes it too heavy to be used in aircraft frames. It is usable in terrestrial vehicle armor should stronger materials like tungsten carbide, depleted uranium, and titanium be unavailable. While the formula to make chakra steel is kept top secret, especially by all their respective manufacturers, chakra steel products are purchased in bulk by almost everyone in the galaxy. And because the magium in the metal has been melted away during the smelting, Not only is the steel safe enough to be used in kitchen knives, but that the Citadel races will not get a single trace of the magium in it.